As the great Archmage's only disciple, this boy was once expected to follow in his master's footsteps. But when he grew up, Yujin became the old man's greatest disgrace. With a terrifying demon-like appearance and grotesque magic, people screamed whenever he smiled, and taking a few police bullets was practically routine. What no one knew was that beneath that frightening exterior, he was incredibly kind-hearted and loved helping criminals earn an immediate trip behind bars. The story begins as famine, war, depleted resources, and climate change push humanity to the brink. At its darkest hour, a black-haired man appears and declares, "Rest easy, my brothers. From this day forward, you will no longer have to endure such suffering." With overwhelming magical power, he easily subdues the world's most powerful leaders. After hiding for countless centuries, the mages finally step into the light to help humanity. A colossal wave of magic engulfs the conference building, marking the dawn of a new era. Before all humanity, the Archmage Dong UK makes a personal pledge on behalf of the entire magical world. As civilization teeters on the verge of collapse because of mankind's own mistakes, the mages reveal themselves as saviors. From the shattered ruins of devastated cities, they accomplish the impossible, solving problems once thought eternal through miraculous magic. Magic sweeps away war machines, purifies lands poisoned by nuclear contamination, and restores life to barren soil. Thanks to magic's salvation, the world enters an unprecedented golden age. Dong UK becomes its greatest icon, leader, and most worshipped figure. Yet even at the height of fame, he realizes the world still has far too many problems for one man to handle alone. In the silence of his enormous library, Dong UK looks thoughtfully at the child before him. "I cannot solve everything by myself. I need more righteous and wise mages to share this burden." He bends down, places a hand on the boy's shoulder, and says with great expectation, "I need you. As the world's greatest Archmage, I will raise you to become the second greatest mage." That child is young Yujin, his eyes bright and smile radiant. He answers firmly, "Yes, master. I promise." 26 years later, a suited man trembles in a dark corridor, trapped in a living nightmare. At his feet, a young woman with moss-green hair sobs desperately. "Master, please save me." She realizes in horror that she can no longer feel her legs. "Something is wrong. I cannot move. Please spare me. I don't want to die yet." From the darkness, a pale, sinewy hand glides forward like a ghost. The woman screams as it seizes her head. Through tears, she begs, "No, wait. Please, just give me one chance." But there is no saving her now. The man can only watch helplessly from afar as she is dragged into the depths of the darkness. Panting in terror, he finally understands the horrifying truth behind the rumors. The mage who hunts other mages and crushes them into shapeless masses with bizarre magic is the Archmage Dong UK's one and only disgrace. It is the disciple Dong UK abandoned. Wearing a terrifying mask, Yujin emerges silently from the void. The man falls backward and stammers, "Don't come closer. Whatever you want, say it from there." Just as Yujin is about to speak, the man loses control and screams, "I told you not to come closer, monster!" A powerful fire spell erupts and explodes directly against Yujin. The man turns and runs for his life. He once believed anything was possible because he trusted magic, but the horror pursuing him, stretching out pale tentacles, cannot possibly be magic. A monstrous hand suddenly grabs his head from behind. Amid a blood-curdling scream, he realizes there is no escape as the strange substance spreads across his face. Then everything falls silent. In the dark, suffocating basement, the kidnapped victims huddle together in terror, eyeing one another suspiciously and wondering whether rescue is truly coming. When the heavy iron door begins to rattle, a man cries out with joy, "There's hope! It's opening!" They believe the rescue team has finally arrived and their nightmare of slavery is ending. But hope dies when a towering black silhouette with a grotesque smile appears through the gap. "Found you!" Outside, the crime scene is sealed off by ambulances and police vehicles. Victims are carried out on stretchers in severe shock, but fortunately none are in life-threatening condition. Standing at the scene, Inspector Kim Sung-hoon stares anxiously into the basement darkness. He still cannot grow accustomed to such grotesque traces, because as far as he knows, only one mage in the world can create a scene like this. Then a familiar voice calls out, "Wow, what a small world! We meet again." Yujin approaches in his usual bizarre form, dragging a heavy black sack behind him. Seeing Inspector Kim tense up, Yujin casually asks about the victims. "Collective shock from confinement, right?" When the inspector confirms they are safe, Yujin sighs in genuine relief. "Thank goodness. That's incredibly fortunate." He remembers opening the door and finding the victims foaming at the mouth and screaming in panic. Fearing he had arrived too late, he immediately called emergency services. Deep down, Yujin is furious at the corrupt mages who kidnapped homeless adults and runaway children, forcing them to produce magical materials like slaves. Looking at the ringleader trembling and begging within the black mass in his hand, Yujin replies coldly, "No need to worry. Just sleep comfortably. And while you're at it, reflect on yourselves." Ignoring the criminal's screams, he compresses the entire group into a compact mass. Yujin is suspicious and terrifying in both appearance and magic, yet absurdly kind and always interfering to help the police without asking for payment. After reducing the criminals into a small block for Inspector Kim, he excitedly asks to watch the Miranda warning like in the movies, leaving the inspector speechless. Watching the mysterious mage's back, Inspector Kim bows his head. "Teacher Yujin, thank you for helping us again." Yujin waves away the gratitude, revealing an unnaturally cheerful smile. His appearance makes calm judgment nearly impossible. Inspector Kim Sung-hoon then warns him about rumors of a horrifying serial killer roaming the area and asks him to report any clues immediately. Looking at the frightening face before him, the inspector wonders whether he should simply say that Yujin's appearance is the source of those rumors. Realizing it is late, Yujin hurriedly pulls out something he prepared beforehand. It is a flyer advertising his new service. Yujin enthusiastically asks the inspector to help promote it, then waves goodbye. Holding the paper, Kim Sung-hoon can only stare in disbelief. Does this strange man seriously not understand his own situation? Meanwhile, 30 years have passed since Archmage Dong UK founded his magical organization. Magic now permeates every part of life, from medicine and culture to security, becoming indispensable. Yet true mages remain extremely rare. While major institutions such as Pram Magic Academy aggressively recruit students with promises of fame and power, Yujin stands on a street corner handing out flyers for his own Yujin Magic Academy. He confidently advertises practical spells useful for exams and business, all at extremely affordable tuition. Even though he no longer walks beside his master, Yujin has never forgotten his childhood promise and remains determined to fulfill it. After all, once someone is your teacher, they remain your teacher forever. Everywhere he looks, people with a little magic use it to exploit and harm others. Yujin understands that punishing villains one at a time is only a temporary measure and cannot solve the root of the problem. Sitting thoughtfully on a park bench, he wonders what path a disciple of the Archmage should take to truly help the world. Watching a teacher gently lead children through the warm afternoon, the mysterious mage finally seems to find his answer. "Keep walking and take a look at the scenery around you, children," the teacher says gently. But the atmosphere suddenly turns heavy when she freezes, her face drained of color. The confused children ask why she has stopped, unaware of the tall, grotesque shadow emerging from the bushes behind her. Watching this, Yujin thinks, "I've found it. A way to nurture intelligent, educated, and righteous mages who will use magic for the world." Acting immediately, he approaches the trembling woman and offers her a flyer. "Ma'am, take a look. Does your child dream of becoming a mage?" Yujin enthusiastically promotes his academy, which teaches everything from combat skills to everyday magic. He explains that studying magic can improve creativity, concentration, emotional development, and character. Before he can finish, the woman flees for her life. Yujin scratches his head and decides that parents naturally need time to consider their children's education. He looks at the untouched stack of flyers, then at the crowd avoiding him like a curse. Whispers spread everywhere. "What is that thing? Don't look at its face or you'll die. Should we call the police?" Realizing that the normal approach is ineffective because everyone is busy, Yujin decides he needs a way to attract attention. He begins making strange guttural noises, causing everyone nearby to recoil in fear. His body starts twisting and stretching unnaturally. Bigger. Much bigger and longer. To distribute more flyers, Yujin transforms into a mass of black matter with countless tentacles reaching across the street like a true monster. Delighted, he decorates the flyers and bellows. Hot news, everyone! I'm offering magic lessons! Sign up now, become a skilled mage, and help contribute to the world! The horrifying spectacle sends the crowd into panic. Screams echo through the street as black tentacles reach out to hand flyers to every passerby. Yujin remains completely unaware of the terror he is causing. He pushes his grotesquely smiling face close to a pedestrian. From hobby classes to professional courses, all at low prices. Then he suddenly realizes. Why didn't I think of this earlier? Attention and entertainment are the fundamentals of marketing. Yujin is extremely proud of his idea. He recalls the wonderful childhood memory of visiting an amusement park with his master, where a tall clown gave him a balloon. Yujin believes using magic to create happy, memorable moments for others is another way to do good. Reality, however, is the opposite. That's him. The serial killer who eats mages. He's insane! The citizens scream. At that moment, a powerful fire spell strikes from behind. A massive explosion engulfs Yujin, leaving a nearby young man staring in shock. What the hell just happened? As the smoke clears, a man with wavy blue hair and an elegant uniform steps forward to the crowd's cheers. It is Choi Yak, headmaster of Pram Academy. The citizens finally breathe in relief, certain that the nightmare will soon end. Choi Yak smugly thinks he should have observed longer, but never expected one basic attack to blow off the enemy's head. He is still regretting that he never got to use a flashier spell to promote his academy when he suddenly freezes. Yujin is standing behind him like a ghost. A cold voice says, "Using dangerous magic in the middle of the city? Luckily it hit me." Choi Yak spins around in terror, unable to believe his eyes after clearly seeing the man's head explode. In panic, he prepares another spell, but Yujin's sinewy hand grabs him and seals his mouth. Yujin growls, "It was you, wasn't it? The one using magic to harm innocent people. The serial killer." Seeing the crowd fleeing and hearing them shout about a murderer, Yujin becomes certain that the trembling man in his grip is his target. He brings his horrifying face close to Choi Yak, black eyes boring into the old man's soul. "If you aren't the killer, why would you cast a spell that blows someone's head apart?" Furious that magic has been used so cruelly, Yujin ignores the man's muffled pleas and restrains him completely, making him fade into the mass of black substance. After dealing with the man he believes to be the killer, Yujin calmly calls Inspector Kim to collect him, then happily returns to handing out flyers. "Now let's continue." Yujin disappears down the street as people whisper about his terrifying appearance, and the rumor that he is the abandoned disciple of Archmage Dong Uk. Elsewhere is Ayin, Dong Uk's biological daughter, who is also operating in the area with overwhelming power. "Team leader, look at this," her assistant calls, breaking the tense silence after battle. Ayin stands coldly over the groaning enemy at her feet. Her excited co-worker shows her a phone. "Do you know who this ugly demon is? Rumor says he's Archmage Dong Uk's disciple, but everyone doubts an unknown nobody who claims that title." The instant Ayin sees the photo, she freezes and whispers, "Yujin." Seeing the strange expression on her leader's face, the co-worker asks nervously whether she is angry. Before he can finish, a dry crack rings out. Ayin has crushed the phone in her hand, leaving the entire team wailing over the loss. "My phone!" Ignoring the noise, Ayin's mind fills with memories from more than a decade ago. Images of her father and his disciple return vividly. She could never forget that face. At last, the opportunity to prove herself before her father has arrived. She walks away with iron determination. Ayin vows to show the world that she, Dong Ayin, is the foremost of her father's disciples. Yujin will be the living proof. Back at the explosion site, Yujin apologizes profusely after realizing he attacked the wrong person. "I'm sorry for the misunderstanding. I didn't realize he was the headmaster of the academy right in front of us." Choi Yak can only tremble and beg the bizarre mage to leave. "Enough. Please go away. I need to rest. Yujin still complains. If you dislike me handing out flyers outside your gate, you could have said so instead of blasting me with magic. Inspector Kim quickly intervenes and advises Yujin to focus on his academy rather than chasing murderers. Leave the killer to the police. You should worry about opening your school. Yujin happily waves goodbye. All right, I understand. I'll go hand out more flyers. Watching the overly enthusiastic mage leave, the officers sigh as though supervising a child. Yujin, meanwhile, remains delighted at being called a teacher. Teacher Yujin. That sounds wonderful. I need students in a proper academy as soon as possible. Burning with motivation, he heads toward an elementary school gate, leaving terrified witnesses behind. Ayan remembers herself as a child, cheering when a brilliant magic circle appeared between her hands. She runs to show her father. Father, look! I have magic too! Dong Yuke looks at his little daughter with affection and seriousness. I see. Of course my daughter could do it. Placing a hand on her head, he begins an important lesson. Remember this. Ayan, being special is not something to feel satisfied merely possessing. It shines only when you do deeds worthy of that gift. He emphasizes that she must become exceptional enough to deserve the talent she was born with. Ayan beams proudly. Of course. Whose daughter do you think I am? One day, I will become an Archmage just like you. Then she innocently asks, where did Uncle Yujin go? I want to show him too. At the mention of that name, Dong Yuke's face darkens, his eyes hidden in shadow as the atmosphere grows heavy. Back in the present, Ayan watches Yujin's antics and sighs in disgust. He is still as insanely terrifying as ever. At Pram Academy's office, Headmaster Choi Yak remains shaken after their encounter. Pressing an ice pack to his head, he rambles about the grotesque power he experienced. It turned people into some writhing mass, and I don't even know whether that counts as magic. He shudders at the memory of Yujin's inhuman face and wonders whether such a monster was truly the Archmage's disciple, or merely an orphan adopted out of pity. To restore his dignity and erase the humiliation, Choi Yak gathers the best students from the combat department and confidently proposes an alliance with Ayan's team. No matter what bizarre magic he uses, if the two of us work together. Ayan cuts him off coldly. Wait. I think you have misunderstood something. She rises and states her purpose without hesitation. I came only to obtain information about Yujin. Your failure is your own problem. Why are you dragging this out? Her bluntness leaves Choi Yak and his subordinates speechless. As her group heads for the exit, a hostile Pram employee blocks their path. He shouts that her attitude is disrespectful in someone else's company and demands she apologize to Headmaster Choi and accept the alliance. Ayan remains expressionless and orders her people to ignore them. I already told you. Our own team is more than enough. The Pram employees continue mocking Ayan behind her back, calling her an arrogant woman who relies solely on her famous father and has neither manners nor true ability. They congratulate themselves for driving her away. Then screams erupt from inside the office. When the door opens, a horrifying sight appears. The entire room looks as though a storm passed through it. The Academy's combat mages lie unconscious among the wreckage, while Headmaster Choi Yak slumps blankly in his chair. Ayan walks away coldly, leaving one sharp warning. Headmaster Choi Yak, before teaching magic, teach your subordinates some manners. Meanwhile, Yujin sits alone in a cafe, focused on his computer. A young man at the next table begins mocking his strange appearance. I wasn't going to start trouble, but you're really getting on my nerves. What, you came here to drink coffee alone? Yujin remains silent. But when Yujin turns his hollow black face toward him and says, Please be quiet, the young man immediately pales and breaks into a sweat. He mutters an apology, claims he mistook Yujin for an acquaintance, and hurriedly tells him to continue. In truth, Yujin regrets wasting time watching cute animal videos instead of doing research. He remembers Inspector Kim Sung-hoon's advice that no one pays attention to flyers anymore, and effective advertising now requires Instagram or YouTube. While trying to understand social media marketing, Yujin freezes when he sees videos of his own transformation spreading everywhere online. A hand suddenly taps his shoulder, startling him into a scream. Good grief, you scared me. I was only watching for a moment before getting back to work. The person touching him is Ayan's assistant, who is equally horrified. Good grief, your appearance really is terrifying. She quickly regains her composure and asks, Are you Yujin? After he confirms, she explains that someone very much wants to meet him and invites him to follow. Yujin quietly trails the two strangers through the crowded street. The young man accompanying them repeatedly reports by phone that the target is moving and showing no suspicious behavior. Yujin asks who wants to meet him, but the woman only smiles mysteriously. Perhaps that person wants to surprise you. Privately, she wonders how anyone could exist with such a terrifying face. Not only is Yujin's appearance grotesque, but the pressure radiating from him is enough to freeze anyone nearby. As Wai Myung leads the way, he nervously wonders when the man will reveal his true nature. At first, he only hopes the escort will proceed smoothly. The abandoned disciples file says Yujin is 34 years old, an orphan from a war zone whom Archmage Dong UK adopted as a child. 14 years ago, he was a brilliant chief researcher at the Magical Engineering Research Foundation, but then vanished without a trace. Looking at the photograph of young Yujin, the assistant exclaims, How did someone this adorable suddenly turn into that terrifying mess? Meanwhile, Ayan orders Wai Myung and the other assistant to bring Yujin to her after preparations are complete. When they ask the true purpose of the meeting, she recalls the past. On the day Yujin disappeared, her father was devastated that the disciple he cherished had turned his back and left. He did not reappear until 10 years later, making Ayan deeply suspicious. Clenching her fist, she says, I want to determine whether he intends to endanger my father or disgrace his name. If there is even the slightest threat, she will eliminate Yujin herself. The assistants only need to locate him and escort him to the arranged place. Back on the street, the female assistant grows increasingly irritated and uneasy because Yujin walks silently behind her, staring. The tension raises goosebumps across her skin, and she barely dares to breathe. Suddenly, Yujin brings his grotesquely smiling face close and says, I know. You work with Ayan, don't you? He shows her a video on his phone, making her realize in horror that their identity has been exposed. In panic, she shouts that the plan has changed and orders Wai Myung to restrain Yujin immediately. Understanding this signal, Wai Myung activates a brilliant magic circle around his hand and prepares to subdue the mysterious mage. A deafening explosion erupts with a flash of blue light, blasting Yujin to the ground. Wai Myung's powerful attack fills the scene with smoke and debris. Seeing Yujin motionless among the wreckage, part of his body frozen, the assistant panics. Their leader only ordered them to bring him in, but this has gone far beyond the plan. Looking at his mangled body, she trembles and asks whether he could really be dead. She cannot understand why Wai Myung attacked so brutally that he severed the man's arm. Wai Myung desperately argues that anyone facing that monster's stare and reaching hand would have reacted in self-defense. But as she struggles with guilt, black matter from the severed arm begins writhing and melting unnaturally. Yujin slowly sits up from the rubble as his distorted body restores itself. He says coldly, I apologize for startling you earlier. Though polite, his aura freezes both young mages. He continues, Still, no matter how angry you were, that was rather violent. Watching a new arm grow from black tentacles, they realize they are facing something beyond comprehension. Earlier, when Ayan assigned the mission, her subordinates expressed concern about Yujin's power. They wondered whether they could handle a former disciple of the Archmage, especially one rumored to have killed many mages. Ayan, however, insisted that no matter how talented he had once been, Yujin was only a former researcher. She had complete confidence in her team. Wai Myung was an A-rank bodyguard with extensive experience protecting high-profile figures from assassination. The other assistant was a veteran mercenary who had once fought 100 terrorist mages alone. Ayan believed Choi Yak failed only because he was a show-off. Against her two agents, Yujin would stand no chance. Ayan instructed them to minimize damage and contact her immediately if anything went wrong. But reality rarely follows anyone's plans. A scream tears through the air, and Ayan arrives to see the impossible. Yujin has completely recovered and is charging like a crazed monster. He seizes the female assistant's head while she screams in disgust and terror. Yujin's horrifying masked face closes in, his bottomless black eyes paralyzing her. At the last instant, a blue blast hurls him away. Seeing her two teammates in miserable condition, Ayan frowns and asks what happened. Gasping for breath, the assistant urgently warns her about the enemy. No matter how many times they attack, Yujin regenerates miraculously, and even their strongest magical defenses are pierced as though they do not exist. She cries in despair. More importantly, if his hand touches you, it's over. I told you he was an insane monster. The crowd begins murmuring when they recognize the Archmage's daughter. That's Dong Ayan. She must be here to capture that monster. Ignoring the whispers, Ayan coldly activates a magic circle beneath her feet. Stay calm. First, we need to move somewhere else. A blinding flash instantly envelopes everyone. The teleportation carries Ayan, Yujin, and the two assistants away from the crowded street and into a deserted field of ruins. After landing among the rubble, Ayan adjusts her wide-brimmed hat and confirms that she did not mistake him. In contrast to her tension, Yujin becomes delighted upon recognizing an old acquaintance. Ayan! You've grown so tall already. He miscalculates the years and is astonished to learn that the child is now 22. Raising both hands in greeting, Yujin says, It's Uncle Yujin. Do you remember me? That hat was passed down by your father, wasn't it? You finally became a mage. Ayan answers with a sharp glare. Then why are the people I sent in this condition? Yujin scratches his head and explains that he may have gone slightly too far when they first met. He says they repeatedly attacked him with lethal magic, so he had no choice but to restrain them temporarily to protect the people nearby until they calmed down. Ayan cuts him off coldly. I do not need the details. She touches the jewel on her chest as mana begins leaking outward. Ayan admits she had struggled to find a proper reason to fight him. But for someone who was clearly a problem from the beginning, she decides no further excuse is necessary. Looking at her trembling, injured subordinates, Ayan's anger erupts. How dare you bully my precious people like this? How dare you use my father's disciple's name to make such a mockery of it? While Yujin remains bewildered, she begins casting a series of advanced spells. Multicolored magic circles appear around her arms. Second-tier spells activate one after another, purifying cold wind, steel skin, Avenger's cloak, external skeleton, and auxiliary magic hands. She declares that this is proof she deserves to replace the traitor at her father's side. The real battle begins as Ayan attacks at incredible speed. Spells fire continuously, carrying powerful blue energy directly into Yujin. She darts through the ruins, delivering blows that shake the ground. As she attacks, Ayan snarls, And stop acting familiar and speaking casually to me. We cannot ignore what happened elsewhere. This is an insult to the headmaster and the entire academy. Angry shouts echo through the ruined Pram Academy office. Injured employees on crutches or lying across the floor demand revenge. I don't care if she is the Archmage's daughter. We must teach that arrogant woman a lesson. But the blue-haired headmaster stops them. I know you're angry, but abandon that idea immediately. She is the daughter of Dong Uk, the greatest mage in the world. Do you think she inherited only his wealth? Horrifying memories return to Choi Yak. He once participated in a joint operation with Ayan to destroy a magical crime organization. That was the first time in my life I felt so small and insignificant. He remembers the young woman standing in a burning war zone, her magic radiating pressure so overwhelming that no one dared approach. The difference was so vast that it was hard to believe we were both mages. That is why I stayed silent even after she humiliated me. To her former colleagues, Ayan's power resembled an unstoppable natural disaster. Even if every combat mage in this academy attacked together with me, I doubt we could touch a single strand of her hair. Back at the present battle, Yujin looks genuinely puzzled. Why is that girl so furious? Despite Ayan's space-rending attacks, Yujin's terrifying mask emerges from the black matter as he asks with concern. Ayan, is something troubling you? The Ayan I knew would not behave irrationally simply because she was in a bad mood. The words strike a nerve. Ayan grits her teeth, shouts for him to be silent, and swings her staff, launching a massive blue wave. Don't call yourself my uncle! You traitor! Her eyes blaze with hatred. She condemns Yujin as an ungrateful man who betrayed her father and disappeared, only to return shamelessly and disgrace the name of the Archmage's disciple. As the true disciple, Ayin declares that these brutal attacks are the punishment he deserves. Magic rains down in successive explosions against Yujin's grotesque body. In the smoke, he can only wonder. A traitor? He finally recognizes the depth of hatred behind every strike. Heartbroken, he wonders what he did to make the child resent him so deeply that she tries to kill him after more than a decade apart. Then an old memory returns. He sees young Ayin sitting sadly in a restaurant, anxiously asking whether her father left any instructions about teaching her magic. All the children her age had already begun learning basic spells, and she burst into tears, afraid that failing to become a mage would disappoint her father. Seeing the trembling child, the younger Yujin comforted her gently. Don't worry. You are the beloved daughter of the greatest Archmage in the world. He promised that he and her father would find a way to help her become a magnificent mage. Yujin even promised to teach her secret spells that would leave her father astonished. The two sealed the sincere promise with linked pinkies as tears filled her eyes. Back in the present, Yujin looks at his monstrous hand and whispers inwardly, Ayin, I'm sorry. He blames himself for failing to keep the promise and disappearing before he could watch her grow into a true mage. Meanwhile, Ayin begins to tire, her breathing ragged as she realizes how durable he is. She has used her strongest advanced spells, yet nothing seems capable of truly hurting the monster. She grits her teeth and wonders whether he can be destroyed at all as Yujin continues smiling eerily and regenerating among the rubble. Ayin clenches her fists and regains control after realizing she wasted too much mana on hopeless attacks. Yujin appears completely relaxed and has not even retaliated, making her increasingly impatient. Regeneration must still have limits, and she knows many ways to suppress such a mage. As she prepares another spell, Yujin suddenly calls out, Ayin, I am truly sorry, I only realized it now. Delighted by their reunion, he explains that he forgot something important. With his frightening smile, Yujin asks, Ayin, you wanted to show me the magic you practiced while I was away, didn't you? Without waiting for an answer, he decides she is trying to prove that she became an outstanding mage without his help. Yujin praises her repeatedly. I'm truly amazed. You must have worked very hard. Your father must be incredibly proud. Those words touch Ayin's deepest memory and return her to the beginning of her magical path. She remembers her father patting her head after she graduated at the top of her class. Ayin, you did wonderfully. As expected of my precious daughter. I am proud of you. Young Ayin confidently declared that she would work even harder and become his finest disciple. But Dong Yukei's answer poured cold water over her pride. I will wait for the day you become a disciple I can be proud of, just like Uncle Yujin. The name Yujin became an obsession and an enormous wall she had to surpass. She trained relentlessly, even risking her life in the harshest real battles to gain experience. Although people constantly praised her effort, her father never once called her his proudest disciple. To Ayin, Yujin was merely the man who disappointed her father and ran away, yet somehow he still remained the person closest to and most treasured by him. Watching Yujin raise both thumbs, pleased with his bizarre attempt at emotional support, Ayin feels that every sacrifice she made is being mocked. Yujin believes enthusiastic praise will calm her, unaware that he is lighting the fuse of a volcano. Seeing her hard-earned achievements treated like a joke, Ayin clenches her teeth and crushes a mysterious black box in her hand. Yujin remains oblivious to what has made her so angry. Ayin swallows the pills inside and channels all her mana into a devastating attack. Fine. If you want to pay so much attention to me, then watch carefully. Seeing the immense energy gathering, Yujin can only exclaim in surprise. Ayin raises her staff as a blazing magic circle appears, threatening to incinerate everything. Would you like to test your proud regeneration against this? Her subordinates scream desperately from the crossfire. Team leader, calm down! If you use that spell, we'll die too! Yujin, however, looks at her with immense pride. She has finally reached the third tier, the highest level of magic. Moved by the hardships she must have endured, he chooses not to dodge. Instead, he wants to support her effort with all the respect it deserves so that she can achieve even greater results. Just as Ayan prepares to cast the third-tier ultimate spell, Eye of Destruction, Yujin suddenly speaks. Ayan, listen. Yujin realizes she does not need praise right now, but clear guidance that will help her advance. Despite the attack about to erupt, he calmly instructs her. For the manual control circuit of that third-tier spell, adjusting the energy distribution slightly would improve efficiency considerably. The circuit connections do not need to be this complicated. With ease, he dismantles her attack. Watching Yujin lecture in the middle of battle, the two assistants freeze. They do not know whether to celebrate surviving or accept that everything is over. Yujin continues explaining teleportation timing and foot placement, while Ayan stands speechless. Ayan screams, "Why are you always like this? Can you never change?" She cannot tolerate his habit of finding one tiny flaw and criticizing every detail regardless of time or place. While Yujin wonders what he did wrong, she brings up an old incident on her father's birthday. Instead of praising the cookies she had made herself, Yujin casually pointed out that they were burned and made with the wrong flour, humiliating her in front of her father. Her rage explodes. Ayan calls him tactless, meddlesome, and self-satisfied. "You have always driven me insane, you bastard!" After the furious tirade, Ayan pants from exhaustion. Even her assistant is shocked to discover that their refined young lady knows how to curse. Yujin stands motionless behind his eerie smiling mask, then suddenly exclaims, "Ah! Right, I should remove that binding spell." He reaches toward the assistant's head and releases the restraint magic, making her jump in terror. Ayan seems calmer now. She puts away her weapon and quietly apologizes for shouting. Yujin suddenly asks in a serious tone, "Ayan, when did you begin using magic?" He recalls how hard he and her father worked to help her awaken it. Ayan remains silent, sadness in her eyes as she remembers that fateful moment. After the confrontation, Wai Myung struggles upright among the wreckage and anxiously asks whether his face will return to normal. His companion pours cold water on him. "Why worry? You were never handsome." Ayan announces that their work is finished and orders the team to leave. She turns a sharp gaze on Yujin and warns that many mages are waiting to take revenge for his bizarre actions. He must behave carefully so as not to damage her father's reputation. Then she delivers a cruel truth. "My father does not need you to return to his side either. For both me and my father, the void you left no longer exists." Her words seem to sever the final thread connecting them. Yujin can only scratch his head and watch her lonely back. When Wai Myung asks whether they are truly leaving him in the ruins, Ayan stops and shouts, "Uncle, come here." She asks his address so she can teleport him home along the way. Before parting, Ayan coldly hands Yujin a business card. "This is my card. If you encounter a problem, contact me. I am giving it to you so you will not bother my father. Unless it is truly important, do not call me." Just as Ayan turns away, horror strikes. Black tentacles suddenly pierce straight through her chest, leaving her able to utter only a stunned sound. The two assistants scream in terror. A ruthless hand reaches deep into her chest and pulls out a shining mass studded with jewel-like fragments amid blood and Ayan's agonized cry. Yujin freezes, his mind exploding at the brutal truth. It cannot be. If this is real, then none of it makes sense. He had hoped the truth was not so terrible and had invented every possible excuse for what was happening. He tried to believe that person must have had a reason, but now all his faith collapses. The image of his respected master returns, mercilessly gripping the radiant heart. Staring at the strange object in his hand, Yujin cries in anguish, "Master, how could you take away my fragile little heart so easily?" Standing over Ayan's fading body, he burns with rage as he realizes the Archmage's crime. "I cannot accept this. Dawn UK!" Friedrich's furious roar tears through space. He demands to know why the Archmage is teaching precious magic to inferior humans. Dong UK remains calm, holding young Yujin's hand. "You're hurting my ears. We can speak calmly." Friedrich points toward the ruined city and screams that foolish humans brought destruction upon themselves because they could not control primitive knowledge. Why should mages end their isolation for them? He recalls their old promise that mages would rule humanity. That was why he joined the plan, not to grant power to the unworthy. Dong Uk sighs and looks at him with pity. You foolish old men. Mages are human too. He explains that centuries of hiding prevented magic from developing. Revealing it is not simple charity, but a path toward coexistence between the two worlds. Coexistence? Friedrich sneers and waves his hand, unleashing a massive fire spell that incinerates an urban district. He argues that lives this fragile can be erased at any moment, and could never stand as equals. Dong Uk does not argue. He coldly tells Friedrich to remain silent and watch the era change. Looking down at Yujin, Dong Uk says that among the weak people Friedrich despises, a mage may one day arise so terrifying that even the strongest will look ridiculous. But before then, he releases crushing pressure and warns that an ordinary mage who opposes the Archmage must pay the price. Friedrich's face goes pale. Back in the silent present, Ayan slowly regains consciousness, her blue eyes opening weakly. She jolts awake with unfinished words on her lips and realizes she is in an unfamiliar room. Her assistants stand beside her in relief. Thank goodness. You're finally awake. Ayan looks around in confusion, the memory of her chest being pierced still vivid. Where am I? Yujin's grotesquely smiling face suddenly leans close. Ayan, are you all right? She recoils in terror. Yujin casually explains that this is his academy. He enthusiastically says he is preparing for the opening, from finishing the interior and recruiting students to learning social media advertising. Ayan clutches her chest. The pain has vanished, and her heart feels normal. Did he pull it out and put it back? Suspicion turns to anger. How can you two chat so calmly when he stole my heart? The assistant frantically denies it, but Yujin interrupts and says he knows everything. Wai Myung explains that the real issue concerns Ayan's heart. Shocked, she listens as Yujin says he only passed through her body to examine its true condition. She had used too much magic that day. Her already overworked heart suffered a major shock and entered a critical state. Yujin had desperately saved her from death. Wai Myung says Yujin panicked when she collapsed and personally carried her here. Because her heart condition is classified information, they could not take her to a public hospital. After a silence, Ayan puts on her hat and says, I seem to have inconvenienced you. I should leave before causing more trouble. Goodbye. She and the two assistants bow and head for the door, but Yujin calls her back. Ayan, I need to tell you something very important. His gaze becomes unusually serious behind the darkness. Ayan orders her assistants to go ahead so she can speak with him alone. As they walk away, the two assistants whisper about their leader's tolerance. They wonder whether growing up around Yujin's terrifying face made Ayan so cold and blunt. Wai Myung studies the academy flyer and marvels at Yujin's real abilities. Despite his horrifying appearance, Yujin's regeneration and ability to bypass every magical defense are incredible secrets. Yet he seems willing to reveal them for cheap tuition, perhaps even asking them to advertise again. The female assistant wonders why Wai Myung is carrying a stack of Yujin's flyers. As they stroll down the street, he jokes that even the Archmage's daughter was helpless against Yujin's strange magic. Suddenly, a stranger crashes into him, making him snap angrily. Watch where you're going. The stranger pauses suspiciously. Wait. I have seen you two on YouTube. Are you the mages working with Dong Ayan? Mistaking the attention for fame, the assistant confirms enthusiastically. The white-haired, white-bearded man in dark sunglasses smirks. How boring. Young people know nothing these days. He leans close, revealing sharp, dangerous eyes, and claims he is as close as a brother to Ayan's father, practically her uncle. Meanwhile, Ayan faces Yujin in the academy office, looking exhausted. Yujin asks seriously whether her heart is always strained whenever she uses magic. She does not evade the question. Yes. If I continue using magic, I may die before long. She bitterly describes inheriting her father's immense talent, while suffering a severe mana allergy that continually burdens her heart until it will eventually explode. Yujin listens silently, his sinewy hand tightening. He mutters bitterly. Mana allergy. That was a convenient lie, wasn't it, Master? Ayan gives a cold laugh, assuming he removed her heart merely out of curiosity. Such reckless behavior is entirely typical of him and has never changed. She rises decisively. If there is nothing else, I will leave. I have a mountain of work. But when Ayan moves to go, Yujin suddenly grabs her shoulder. He pleads. There are many ways to help people besides being a mage. Instead of stubbornly living a short life as a mage, you could find another job where people truly need you. Yujin desperately wants to offer her a new beginning, but Ayan reacts with fury. She knocks his hand away. Let go of me. Yujin, you are crossing the line. Ayan says his place in her life and her father's disappeared long ago. He has no right to enter her life again. This is my life, the special gift my father gave me. She accepts the illness as a cruel destiny, and is willing to bear every consequence herself. To Ayan, a short life as a mage is better than living as an ordinary, useless person. She looks contemptuously at Yujin's academy plan, and tells him to stop meddling in her life and focus on students who actually pay for his lessons. Yujin lowers his head silently beneath her cutting words. Darkness covers his frightening face. Just as the tension peaks, Ayan's phone rings. The moment she hears her assistant's voice, her expression changes. Her people are in danger. I'm coming. Hold on a little longer. Ayan rushes away, leaving Yujin tormented by a secret he still lacks the courage to reveal. A memory from more than a decade ago returns. In the old laboratory, every simulation of a magical heart transplant failed because Ayan's body, unable to absorb mana, violently rejected the organ. Facing the desperate condition of a child not yet 8 years old, Yujin made a mad decision. He would transplant his own heart, which contained the strongest mana source the Archmage had ever seen, into Ayan. She was not merely his master's daughter but his precious niece, and he was willing to give her the best thing he possessed. Yet reality proved far crueler than expected. Although the transplant allowed her to use magic, a shortened life completely overturned the original goal of saving her. Back in the present, Yujin grips his head in unbearable guilt. He knows that even if Ayan learned the truth, she would never abandon the path of a mage. This happened because he foolishly allowed his master to take his heart. Does that mean Ayan will die because of him? Despair fills Yujin's black eyes as he realizes he started her tragedy. He collapses onto the cold floor, bitterly believing he has no choice but to watch destiny close around her. Just like 14 years ago, he is still a cowardly, useless man. Yujin lowers his head to the floor, drowning in guilt and helplessness. Meanwhile, Ayan finds her target in a dark suburban area. She observes the man in the shadows and thinks that aside from his hair and eye color, he resembles her father in no way. The hat on his head awakens terrible old memories. Merely facing him, she feels overwhelming pressure that proves his undeniable strength. The man is Friedrich Gamora, once her father's trusted right hand and later a traitor willing to flatten cities to oppose the Archmage. He casually drinks water with the arrogance of a battle mage reputed to be the strongest alive. Friedrich defeats Wei Myung and mocks Ayan for keeping such weak people around, saying they are hardly fit even for errands. Wei Myung and his companion whisper through the pain, telling their leader to flee and keep the Archmage away. The assistant apologizes for calling her in panic and making things worse. Ayan looks at her loyal teammates. Don't worry. I'll teleport you to a hospital now. Thank you for everything. Before they can understand the farewell, she activates a magic circle and sends them away from danger. Friedrich charges with blazing energy, roaring that Ayan is insane to confront him directly. After removing the obstacles, he reveals his desire to meet his old friend Dong Uk after 30 years. With a vicious smile, he gathers red mana and says one should not visit an old friend empty-handed. At minimum, he intends to bring the Archmage his daughter's hat. Ayan shows no fear. She replies that a self-proclaimed old friend who does not even know her father's preferences, and is also a traitorous disciple, deserves to be thrown out at the gate. Blue mana gathers around her staff as she declares he will not meet her father today. In her heart, she decides this is her chance to die gloriously. Move, quickly! Shouts tear through the hospital as everyone rushes toward patients teleported in critical condition. Medical staff demand immediate emergency care. The patients collapse on the floor, their bodies punctured like honeycombs. A doctor orders them rushed to intensive care because of massive blood loss. Meanwhile, in the academy office, a young woman tries to lift the gloomy mood with a proposal. She says the public relations team will prepare a simple summary, including an SNS marketing plan, and send it over. She proudly notes that the idea was hers. But seeing Yujin sitting beneath a dark cloud, she feels completely overwhelmed. His usual face is already frightening, and his depressed expression is worse. She hesitantly asks, "Teacher Yujin, what happened?" Yujin lifts his head and says apologetically, "I intend to postpone opening the academy and look for another job." To her astonishment, he explains that a young woman pursued her dream so desperately that she harmed herself. Instead of supporting her dream, I pressured her to abandon it. I think I hurt her deeply. Yujin blames himself for meddling without understanding people's feelings and concludes that he is unworthy of being a teacher. The woman listens quietly and privately agrees that teaching may not suit him either. Yet as she looks into Yujin's bottomless black eyes, she begins to think. "Teacher Yujin, in my line of work, there have been a few times, actually, quite a lot." She tells him about breaking down doors to save homeowners from thieves, only to be charged for the damage, and twice rescuing someone from suicide only to be slapped and cursed. She has learned that the world is full of people who clearly need help but either fail to recognize it or deliberately ignore their own problems. Does that mean I should simply abandon them? She insists that saving people is her professional duty. Likewise, once Yujin chose to become an educator, he gained a responsibility to tell struggling people the truth and help them find a way through it instead of looking away. Yujin listens silently. He wants to do exactly that, though it seems difficult. Her conviction that magic gives the world a way to solve its problems makes his eyes brighten. A solution. That's right. Why didn't I think of that? Without wasting another second, Yujin jumps to his feet and rushes away. Meanwhile, a tremendous explosion in the suburbs has carved out a deep crater, with pillars of blue energy still leaking from it. Friedrich Gamora descends from above like a god of destruction. Facing A and below, Friedrich shows no mercy. He gathers blazing red mana and throws an overwhelming punch, creating a firestorm that engulfs her. Trapped in the inferno, Aeon grits her teeth and swings her staff in retaliation. First her multicast, mana bullet times 10. 10 blue projectiles tear through the air toward Friedrich. The monstrous old man blocks every shot with one hand, looking down on her with contempt. He casually points a finger as red mana begins spiraling around its tip. Before he can strike again, Aeon unleashes multiple second-tier spells in succession, from high-frequency steel and blade storm to explosive homing rounds. A brilliant blue magical storm surrounds Friedrich, but Aeon refuses to stop. She intends to press the attack all the way. She channels every remaining drop of mana into her weapon, forming a razor-sharp mana blade with a willingness to die. Combining first and second-tier spells, she rains blue attacks upon him, yet Friedrich remains immovable behind his red defense. A sudden fire explosion blasts Aeon away, leaving her collapsed and exhausted. Though her body is falling apart, she forces herself up with determined eyes. Friedrich points at her, activates matter manipulation, and increases his strength tenfold. Aeon uses her final attack. An entire mountain crashes down from above with an earth-shaking impact, leaving even Aeon exhausted by the spell. Yet Friedrich walks from the wreckage without a scratch, mocking her continuously. He acknowledges her enormous mana reserves and diverse combinations as worthy of the Archmage's bloodline, but calls it all meaningless spectacle. She knows many advanced spells but has mastered none, and he has no interest in watching such a clumsy performance. Ignoring his contempt, Aeon rises into the air and channels everything she has left into a massive blazing magic circle. Friedrich is briefly surprised when the energy reaches the third tier. A catastrophic attack called Meteor Spear tears through the sky and descends with annihilating force. Aeon stands panting and drenched in sweat after pouring her entire being into the attack. She bitterly knows it is over. She has used the third tier spell and exhausted every resource. Her ruined body can no longer remain upright. Aeon knows that casting even the simplest spell now will make her heart explode. In despair, she accepts that both her magic and her life have reached their end. Kneeling on the ground, Ayan hopes this final battle and her hopeless effort will at least make her father proud. Friedrich merely looks down and says indifferently, "Kid, go home." She raises her head in disbelief. He had expected great things from Dong Yuk's daughter, but what he saw left him deeply disappointed. Friedrich mocks her magic as crude techniques exaggerated by flashy firepower. Even the third-tier spell she prepared so carefully is nothing but a poorly assembled mess. Behind his sunglasses, he says he has no words for the weakness of someone who shares the great Archmage's blood. He cruelly says he pities Dong Yuk and that killing a failure like her would merely help his old friend dispose of troublesome garbage. Ayan trembles with rage while Friedrich casually cleans his ear. He decides that sparing her would be kinder than doing Dong Yuk such a favor. Having lost all interest, Friedrich says she is barely better than the subordinates used as bait. He turns away with one humiliating dismissal. "Go home and sleep." Ayan screams after him, demanding that he return and finish the fight. She cannot accept being abandoned as harmless. She reminds him that he threatened to take her head to her father. Insisting she still has more techniques, Ayan knows that surviving and returning home unable to use magic would leave only a miserable life. She demands that he come back and fight to the end. Friedrich finally loses patience with her pleading. With killing intent, he growls, "I spared you, but if you insist on dying, then die." Deadly red mana gathers before his chest. At that suffocating moment, a familiar black figure suddenly appears beside them. Yujin casually asks, "Ayan, you were here?" Both Friedrich and Ayan freeze at the mysterious mage's sudden arrival. Ayan stammers, "You Uncle Yujin." Yujin glances at the old man. "Friedrich?" "Yes, I know him." A short while earlier, Yujin had answered a call in a serious voice. When told the location, his eyes lit up. "Ah, I know where that is. Don't worry. I'm leaving now. Ayan will be fine." Yujin immediately calls Inspector Kim to apologize, explaining that he must handle an urgent matter. After receiving permission, he asks the woman beside him to borrow one of the flyers. Taking the paper, Yujin thanks her. He quickly writes something on it and says sincerely, "You are so busy, yet you came to visit me. I kept showing you such a gloomy face. I am truly sorry." The woman waves it away. "It's all right. Everyone has difficult moments. I was only meddling too." The word meddling gives Yujin the courage to face reality again. He promises, "Once I finish this, I will call you." Then he leaps through the window, leaving her stunned. Watching him disappear through the air, the woman can only shout that he should slow down because his life is not disposable. Although relieved that his spirit has returned, she still shudders. No one else could look so horrifying even after cheering up. Meanwhile, Yujin races through the night toward the reported coordinates. Landing amid ruins where blue energy still leaks, he says, "This must be the place mentioned on the phone. What chaos! It looks as if a bomb fell here." Looking over the devastation, Yujin mutters that someone must have used destructive magic. From the crater below, Ayan still screams stubbornly that she has not shown everything. Yujin answers quietly, "All right." He dives downward like a black ghost. As Ayan demands a final battle, an enormous sinewy hand suddenly reaches toward her. Ayan gasps, "How did you know I was here?" Yujin explains that her coworker Wai Myung called to report the danger and reminds her to thank him later. Ignoring Ayan's fear, Yujin uses his grotesque magic to enter her chest, making her shudder at the crawling sensation. Watching from afar, Friedrich mocks him and wonders whether the unacceptable tall creature is her boyfriend. Growing impatient, the old man prepares to intervene. Yujin cuts him off coldly, saying the old man's temper has not changed at all. He asks Friedrich to wait because speaking with Ayan takes priority. Ayan can only endure the pain as black matter moves inside her body. "You again? What disgusting thing are you doing?" Ayan trembles when Yujin lifts the radiant, jewel-filled heart in his hand. Yujin holds it before her. "Look at this. It would be no surprise if it exploded." He warns that casting any more magic would have caused the catastrophe. Ayan screams through tears, calling him a meddler and demanding that he stay out of her life. "Do not ruin my chance to die as Dong Yuk's daughter," she cries. Yujin repeats the word ruin thoughtfully. Looking at the violently beating heart, his face becomes dark and terrifying. Why shouldn't I stop you? What adult would ignore a child trying to die? Should I simply tell you to go ahead and then abandon you? His fury makes Ayan freeze, blue eyes trembling with tears. She lowers her head and sobs. Then what else can I do? This is her only chance to earn recognition. She has no other way to prove herself. I don't want to die either. But with a heart like this, how can I dream of becoming an Archmage? How can I ever become a disciple my father is proud of? Seeing her collapse, Yujin answers softly. That is why I came. He raises the shining heart, and explains the extraordinary mana her father left inside it, power capable of flight, or overturning mountains. Then he advises, for now, forget it. As Ayan stares blankly, Yujin makes a sincere vow. If she gives him one chance to take responsibility, he will do everything possible so she does not have to abandon her life. Trust me. I will make you a true Archmage. Ayan silently looks at the academy flyer he brought, and wonders how he could accomplish something even her father could not. She starts to speak, then swallows her doubts and accepts the paper. Written in red is, Special Course for Dong Ayan. Looking at Yujin, she realizes he is prepared to risk everything for her desperate wish, even beneath the enormous shadow of her father. Yujin grips the heart and flyer, beginning an insane training plan. Ayan cannot believe he is casually waving her heart around to intimidate her. Yet his determination makes her decide to take the risk. A final spark of hope appears in her blue eyes. Perhaps this man can help her reclaim the dreams she abandoned. She asks hesitantly, Should I call you teacher now? Yujin smiles grotesquely. Teacher sounds old-fashioned. Call me coach instead. Then he crushes the heart directly, making Ayan scream. You lunatic! What are you doing? Her anger turns to surprise when she realizes she feels no pain. In that moment, Yujin silently speaks to the Crimson Mana Mass, revealing his hidden sacrifice. It has been a long time, but I need to ask one shameless favor. Leave my body from now on and become Ayan's new heart. The dark red energy gradually merges into her chest, leaving her stunned. I'm alive! Ayan feels the miraculous change. The mana that constantly surged and crushed her heart has vanished. There is no turbulence or pain when it beats. Touching her chest, she realizes the alien discomfort is gone. She can truly live. A confident smile appears. She vows to regain her magic and become a great Archmage. Yujin's voice beside her makes her jump. You've waited long enough, haven't you? She remembers the enemy is still there. Yujin steps forward to shield her and faces Friedrich. I am finished speaking with Ayan. If you have something to say, I will listen. Friedrich remains crouched among the rubble, playing with his phone and glaring at the Archmage's daughter still standing beside that monster. He slowly rises. This is amusing. It has been a long time since anyone looked down on me this much. Only one thing bothers me. Yujin casually asks. What did you say earlier? My temper is the same as before, correct? Friedrich insists he has no memory of meeting such a disgusting creature. Yujin laughs and says that is understandable because their last encounter was 30 years ago. You came to make a scene before my master, got thoroughly disciplined, and ran away. The words strike a sore point. Friedrich grinds his teeth. Disciplined? Ran away? What colorful vocabulary! He remarks that everyone Dong UK raises shares the same diseased mouth. Purple mana erupts around Friedrich, cracking the ground under immense pressure. With the face of a savage beast, he roars that tearing Yujin apart will be deeply satisfying. Ayan panics. Are you insane? Why provoke him for no reason? She reminds Yujin that Friedrich is undefeated except by the Archmage, and his behavior will get them both killed. Yujin places a hand on her shoulder. This is perfect timing. Leaving him alone would be dangerous. Killing intent begins radiating from his black body. He will show Friedrich something the old man will never forget. Yujin tells Ayan to watch carefully. This is the orientation lesson for the first student of Yujin Magic Academy. She stares at the black tentacles and wonders what the bizarre symbols are. When she says she has never seen runes shaped like these, Yujin replies casually. They are magic, of course. He explains that Ayan currently has no defense, so he is using runeless magic to protect her from Friedrich's spells. A full-spectrum protective layer immediately covers her from head to toe. Yujin tells her to step back because the front is dangerous, then asks, Do you know how much mana that spell consumed? While Ayan assumes such a constant combat barrier must cost mana, Yujin reveals that it consumed none. He reassures her and states that his own heart also contains no mana. What he will teach is magic that requires no mana. The Archmage training begins as Yujin approaches the enemy, while Ayan wonders whether they can truly defeat the monster. Friedrich narrows his eyes at Yujin's steps. The man is not charging blindly like a close combat mage. Since a disciple of Dong Uk must have some reason for confidence, Friedrich decides to observe. Yujin summons a strange runic creature in his hand. Without making him wait, Yujin casts runeless magic, continuous binding chains. Blue energy cords shoot forward and wrap Friedrich despite the red fire barrier surrounding him. The old monster gasps as the cords tighten and lock every movement. Ayan is stunned. Even her highest output barrage could not shake his barrier, yet Yujin restrains him with a basic spell. Friedrich grits his teeth. Irritated as he is, he must admit Yujin's spell structure is exceptionally solid, far superior to Dong Uk's careless constructions. He unleashes a brutal fire spell that blows away Yujin's head, only to freeze when it regenerates instantly. I destroyed his entire head, and it grew back? Friedrich smirks with growing interest. Regeneration capable of repairing that degree of damage is extraordinarily rare. Friedrich wonders whether Yujin is betting his life on it. Watching from afar, Ayan sweats nervously. The regeneration is grotesque and nearly unstoppable, but the opponent is Friedrich, who will certainly find a weakness. As expected, Friedrich gathers black lightning and declares that nothing immortal or invincible exists without a flaw. There must be a central core or some limit to the regeneration. He roars that he will break Yujin down to the molecular level and reconstruct him chaotically, destroying the regeneration algorithm. Black lightning engulfs Yujin, but Friedrich's expression suddenly changes. Wait! What the hell are you holding? He cannot believe Yujin has caught the black lightning with his bare hand. The mana-induced reaction should dissolve all matter into separate molecules on contact. Friedrich realizes in panic that Yujin is gripping the deadly energy like a physical object and pulling it out by the roots. Damn it! What insane magic is he using that I have never seen? He prepares to disperse the attack and counter, but Yujin moves first. A sinewy hand suddenly grips Friedrich's arm, accompanied by a soft laugh. Caught you! Friedrich is stunned. Confident in the 12 dense defensive barriers surrounding his body, he mocks Yujin for believing they can be broken so easily. Yujin brings his smiling mask close and remarks that breaking the defense feels no different from grabbing an ordinary arm. Friedrich realizes that touching Yujin feels like pressing a bare hand against the outer wall of a nuclear shelter. He screams, What the hell is this? Black matter spreads over and devours his arm. Friedrich curses in disbelief. Seeing his pain, Yujin casually offers, That must hurt. Should I cut it off completely? I doubt it can be saved. Friedrich trembles helplessly. Not even Dong Uk had ever pierced his barriers this completely. While the old man struggles to understand the cursed magic, Yujin turns toward Ayan. Apologizing for the delay, he decides to give a brief explanation of what she has witnessed. He reminds her that she saw him freely alter his body's shape and transform objects he touched. This is not ordinary magic, but an advanced technique. Before Ayan's worried eyes, Yujin introduces magic that uses no runes, runeless magic. A black explosion erupts, making Friedrich recoil in disgust. Dark tentacles invade and surround Friedrich from every direction. He wonders about the strange sensation that has been encircling him throughout the battle. His reason seems to be eroding. He cannot tell whether it comes from the pain of losing an arm or the mental disorder caused by Yujin's incomprehensible magic. Friedrich unleashes a great attack from above, countless blazing eyes raining fire downward. Since facing Yujin, an inexplicable disgust has risen within him, as though things that should never touch are being twisted and blended into something that should not exist. a tremendous fire attack crashes down. From behind, Ayan watches in horror and calls her uncle's name. Uncle Yujin! Friedrich pants, his face distorted with terror. This cannot be happening. I am Friedrich Gamora. It is impossible for me to lose to one of Dong Yukei's disciples. An enormous shadowy hand covered in glowing eyes crushes him. The once renowned Archmage is reduced to a miserable captive, completely restrained by black tentacles rising like branches of death. Yujin brings his grotesque smile close and says casually, "Sorry. It probably looks funny. The more magic I use in this form, the more unbearably itchy my brain becomes, and I cannot quite hold back." Ayan stares in disbelief. Is it really over? Though Yujin displayed overwhelming strength, she remains anxious about what comes next. He stands like a ghost amid the burning ruins, one sinewy hand gripping Friedrich's glowing heart. Ayan cannot believe her uncle truly defeated the legendary monster. Even in disgrace, Friedrich tries to remain arrogant, while seeing his own heart up close for the first time. If I said I lost because I let my guard down, would you believe me? Yujin answers dryly. So you were careless? I do not specialize in combat magic, but if you say so, I believe you. Friedrich smirks, recognizing the strange personality of a true Dong Yukei disciple. Yet Yujin still remembers the old man's cruelty. One casual movement once collapsed an entire city, burying countless lives beneath flaming rubble and screams. You are someone who should never be allowed to use magic. Yujin declares that the name Archmage Friedrich will end here. Friedrich laughs, admits defeat, and permits the victor to be arrogant. But just as Yujin prepares to finish him, Friedrich performs a mad act, pumping all the mana from his heart directly into his bloodstream at once. A blinding light erupts as Friedrich shouts a woman's name, Sari. Green magic appears beneath him, and his body begins disintegrating in an inexplicable way. Yet powerful recovery magic restores it almost immediately. The woman named Sari appears, confused about the opponent who reduced Friedrich to this state. She mocks him for returning without an arm or heart. Friedrich admits that the monster Yujin is completely different from the Dong Yukei he knew. Though badly destroyed, he refuses to return home immediately because the battle revealed something interesting. For revenge, he prepares rare materials, dust forged in a firestone dragon's breath, cloth sewn from shadow spirit thread, and crystals from snowy mountains. With his remaining strength, he casts a temporary rune spell on a strangely shaped object. Among the ruins of the void training ground, Yujin silently watches the enemy vanish. Friedrich's voice echoes from the darkness. I rarely say this, but thank you. This was a greater harvest than expected. I had great fun. Next time I will build a grander, more exciting stage, and we will fight again properly. His insane laughter fades, leaving sweat running beneath Yujin's mask and a vague fear of what is coming. Behind him, Ayan still stammers in disbelief. What? Is it over? That coward ran away? Friedrich? I cannot believe it. You defeated the strongest Archmage. To Ayan, defeating a legend like Friedrich without another Archmage's aid was impossible. Yujin merely says, I got lucky. He let his guard down. Privately, he is relieved the fight ended just before his time limit expired. Ayan becomes even more excited. Carelessness is not an excuse. Do you think that irritable old man would easily admit defeat? You won. Her curiosity rises. I know you are powerful, but what exactly is runeless magic? Yujin does not answer directly. He places a hand on her shoulder and calls her name with strength and warmth. He promises that she will accomplish everything he can do and even surpass it. As the disciple of the world's greatest Archmage, I will make you the second greatest Archmage. Then he asks sincerely, until then, promise me you will avoid danger like today and treasure your life. Looking at the large hand on her shoulder, Ayan's eyes sting. The gentle uncle from more than a decade ago returns vividly in her mind. This man has not changed at all. She smiles brightly. Yes, Teacher Yujin. I promise. That night, urgent reports arrive at a quiet mansion. News of Friedrich's appearance, and traces of a large-scale magical battle in the mountains outside Seoul shock the authorities. Fortunately, no civilian casualties are recorded. In his reading room, Archmage Dong Uk slowly turns the pages of a heavy book and sighs at news of his old opponent. He had known his daughter would go, though as a father he never wanted her to prove anything with her life. At that moment, a subordinate rushes in. Forgive the interruption. During Lady Ayan's battle with Friedrich, Yujin intervened. Friedrich fled, and the young lady is unharmed. Dong Uk freezes, the book suddenly heavy in his hands. Yujin has returned? Elsewhere, in a room filled with glowing magic circles, the atmosphere is tense. An assistant nervously calls to the doctor, who snaps without looking away. What is it now? The assistant questions whether they should perform emergency surgery on a notorious terrorist like Friedrich. Before being doctors, as human beings, is saving him right? Sari silences him coldly. We were kidnapped into their lair. If you want to go home alive, focus on the operation. A burst of green mana announces the elder's arrival. The red-skinned, horned figure says Friedrich is still holding on, and orders them not to panic. Begin immediately. As Friedrich lies dying amid magical light, the elder murmurs about the burden placed on subordinates who clean up his messes. His loyal disciple Linus replies respectfully, Serving you is my honor. A donor's heart is removed. The medical team reports that they have successfully received the man's heart and arm and will begin the transplant immediately. Friedrich weakly calls Sari's name and asks her to arrange a proper funeral for the donor after surgery. She tells him to stop talking and conserve his breath. But a new plan is already growing in his mind. He orders the entire Zodiac organization assembled. Remembering Dong Uk's words that the weak might astonish the strongest, Friedrich admits that the era truly has changed. Looking at the lights covering his body, he challenges that the change will not unfold as Dong Uk hopes. Far from those dark schemes, Ayan sits peacefully above the city streets. After so many difficult battles, she finally treats herself. For the first time, she tastes coffee. Because of her weak heart, she never dared touch stimulants. Though it is more bitter and nutty than expected, she feels wonderfully refreshed and wonders whether she has ever felt this healthy. Seeing Wai Myung and her other assistant fully recovered reassures her. The assistant sighs in relief, admitting she believed they were finished. She never expected their leader's uncle to possess such miraculous healing magic. Wai Myung recalls Yujin bursting into the emergency room to save them. His terrifying appearance made the medical staff scream, but his timely intervention allowed the entire group to survive. Back in the present, Ayan announces that she will close the office and temporarily stop working as a mage. Her subordinates must keep it secret and say she went abroad to recover from injuries caused by Friedrich. Yujin has agreed to help restore her magic, so she will stay with him for treatment. Wai Myung knows Yujin is a genius who defeated Friedrich, yet still doubts her decision to learn his strange magic. But seeing Ayan calmer and brighter than the cold, achievement-obsessed woman she was before, he realizes the change came from Yujin's special care. At that moment, employees flood into the room, their faces twisted with grief after hearing their leader may retire. They wail that the world is not ready to lose Mage Dong Ayan and demand to follow her abroad to care for her. The assistant struggles to restrain the accountant, insisting that the Archmage's brilliant disciple will handle their leader's recovery. Amid the chaos, Yujin approaches and gives Ayan her repaired magic hat. Although the brim was beyond complete restoration, Yujin repaired its transformation functions and magical coating. Ayan accepts it with a gentle smile and sincerely thanks Sona, Yuna, and Yujin for caring for her. She comforts the assistant and tells her not to blame herself for the past, then offers her deepest gratitude to Wai Myung. She will never forget that he saved her life and made it possible for her to survive until today. Ayan bows before her former teammates and apologizes that her shortcomings drew them into danger. She tells them their talent will eventually shine in positions more worthy of them. As for herself, she will devote everything to recovery and someday return as a mage who makes them proud. Walking through the lively streets, she feels strange excitement. The future remains uncertain, but she will be all right. She no longer has to search for a way to end her life. She remembers Yujin fighting with everything he had and promising to train her until she equaled or surpassed him. To Ayan, Yujin is her father's greatest disciple and the person who guaranteed her an entirely new future. Standing before the small building marked Yujin Magic Academy, she takes a deep breath and decides to place complete faith in this teacher. Upon entering, she finds Yujin casually drinking water. "Oh, you're here. The roads must have been clear today." Ayan immediately frowns at the stranger sitting inside. "I told you to keep my visit secret." The man stands and greets her politely. "Mage Dong, it is a pleasure to meet you. The director has told me a great deal about you." Ayan turns on Yujin with a dangerous glare, making him sweat. "You told him that much about me? I begged you to keep this secret." Yujin waves his hands. "Relax. This is my friend, Inspector Kim Sung-hoon. He is completely trustworthy." The word friend surprises Ayan. Realizing the conversation is private, Inspector Kim excuses himself, saying he only stopped by during work. He assures Ayan that he will never reveal anything about her heart. When Yujin moves to escort him out, Ayan stops them and says they may continue talking without concern for her. Yujin still insists on seeing his friend off, but she grabs his collar and growls. "Teacher Yujin, what are we going to do about that loose mouth?" She reminds him that she deliberately spread the false story that she went abroad to recover. If villains learn that the Archmage's daughter is hiding in Seoul without magic, they will rush here. Yujin awkwardly insists that Inspector Kim is a trusted friend. On the other side of the door, Inspector Kim realizes this is the niece Yujin often mentions. He thinks growing up around Yujin's terrifying face may explain her stern personality, but he is glad Yujin has someone close. As he prepares to leave, he suddenly stops in surprise. During the tense exchange, Yujin notices another visitor entering. "We have a guest." Ayan hides behind him while Yujin dryly comments on the academy's sudden popularity. Inspector Kim quickly leaves to give them privacy. Sensing trouble, Ayan pulls down her hat and tries to escape. "This looks serious, so I will wait outside. Call me when you're done." But as she turns, she notices Yujin's expression. "What is it?" His eyes darken as he stares toward the door. A teasing voice says, "Such a beautiful face is wasted under a hat." A strange hand suddenly snatches the hat from Ayan's head. She erupts in anger. "Let go! Do you know who you are touching?" The stranger calmly praises her beauty like a princess. Ayan freezes when she sees him. A tall, elegant man greets her. "It has been a long time. Is your body well?" Ayan stammers. "Why yes, father." It is Archmage Dong Uk, standing there with a congratulatory plant. She lowers her head and apologizes that he came to such a shabby place. Dong Uk smiles gently and says he had to come because this is where his daughter begins anew, under the disciple he is most proud of. He looks toward Yujin, who stands frozen like a statue. "Yujin, have you grown a little taller?" The eyes of the world's greatest Archmage shine as he formally steps inside. "So you met Friedrich?" His question breaks the silence. Seeing Yujin bow his head and breathe tensely, Dong Uk casually remarks that his old friend still refuses to act his age and continues causing trouble. Setting down the congratulatory plant, he jokes that Friedrich may be suffering from delayed adolescent rebellion. He approaches and sincerely thanks Yujin for saving his daughter. Looking at Ayan standing guiltily nearby, Dong Uk says she has always been his pride, though her impulsiveness often worries him as a father. He is truly glad Yujin is his disciple. The words make Yujin tremble behind the mask. He desperately tells himself to stay calm. Not here. Not now. Because Ayan is watching, Yujin uses every ounce of strength to compose himself despite the sweat running down his neck. He reminds himself that this reunion had to happen eventually, and that he can endure it. But horrifying memories of having his heart taken suddenly return like a wound that never healed. In Yujin's mind, Dong Uk stands in darkness, mercilessly gripping the glowing heart. Facing his magnificent yet terrifying master, Yujin feels suffocating pressure fill the room. Dong Uk looks at him sadly and says he wishes they could have reunited under better circumstances. Despite all the pain and fear, Yujin suddenly rushes forward and embraces his master, shocking Ayan and Inspector Kim. Sobbing, Yujin says, "I'm sorry. I know I do not deserve to behave like this." He admits his actions are immature, but he can no longer restrain himself. After so many years apart, He desperately wanted to see his master, yet feared the old man would reject a traitorous disciple. Lacking courage to approach, Yujin could only watch from afar in anguish. Dong Uk can barely speak as Yujin cries against his shoulder. Wait, slow down. Dong Uk embraces Yujin like a father and smiles kindly. No matter how tall you grow, you are still a child. He gently pats his former disciple's back and soothes years of pain. When the atmosphere settles, Inspector Kim awkwardly offers to leave and give them privacy. But Dong Uk suddenly calls, Inspector Kim Sung-hoon. The inspector freezes in disbelief. You know me? The Archmage smiles warmly. Of course he knows the dedicated officer who protects citizens, and takes such good care of his beloved disciple Yujin. He expresses sincere gratitude, making Inspector Kim blush. Embarrassed, the inspector excuses himself. Outside, he covers his face and thinks Dong Uk's handsome but commanding presence is nearly as intimidating as Yujin's frightening appearance. Inside the academy, Dong Uk looks sorrowfully at his daughter. Ayin, you lost your mana? When she confirms, he sighs. Is that why you came to Yujin for help? You could have discussed such a serious problem with me first. Ayin quickly explains that she never meant to distrust him. Dong Uk reassures her. Trust Yujin. He is the disciple I trust most, and in this matter he may help you more than I can. Before the training begins, he decides to speak privately with Yujin. As your father, I need a conversation with your teacher before entrusting you to him. Wait here. A blaze of fire surrounds the two men and carries them into a separate library space. Standing among enormous shelves, Dong Uk says thoughtfully, Truthfully, I am moved as well. He pours wine, but his voice turns chilling as he recalls the past. I tore out your heart, destroyed your body, and threw you into the gap between dimensions. Looking into Yujin's black eyes, he smirks. Who would have imagined you could survive? You always exceed my expectations. He takes a sip and analyzes how Yujin drifted near death in the dimensional gap, where unusual physical laws prevented complete decomposition. Yet that is not what interests Dong Uk most. Actually, I am more curious about something else. In the mysterious library, he stares into his disciple's darkness and asks quietly, Yujin, do you still not hate me? Yujin falls silent. Memories of the day Dong Uk saved him and the happy years they lived together return like a slow film. Dong Uk was not merely his master but the sole purpose of his life. Yujin answers sincerely, You saved me when I was dying. Every day beside you, my only purpose was to live for you. How could I hate you? He declares absolute loyalty. If Dong Uk needed it, Yujin would die for him here and now without hesitation. Dong Uk smiles slightly, sets down his glass, and rises with satisfaction. In the end, it could only ever be Yujin. Seeing such devotion, the Archmage once again makes an unsettling proposal. If you can still go that far for me, may I offer that plan again? Yujin immediately stops. Just as 14 years ago, he firmly refuses. Master, I already told you. I will help you with anything, even walking into fire, but not this. Seeing his disciple hold firm, Dong Uk can only laugh awkwardly at being rejected a second time. He straightens his clothes and announces that he will move to Plan B, then becomes fascinated again by Yujin's body. The more I look, the more extraordinary it is. How did you create this without mana? This is what allowed you to survive certain death, correct? Yujin explains the power that saved him. He calls it runeless magic, a system even people without mana can use through rigorous training. His eyes shine as he describes the future. He will teach it to Ayin and make her a true Archmage, then train a new generation of talented, righteous mages who protect and serve the world. He dreams of a world filled with benevolent magic and hope. Looking directly at his master, he declares, That is my dream. When it comes true, you will no longer need that other plan. Dong Uk remarks that the dream is vague, but admits he likes it because it is completely true to Yujin's nature. Realizing his disciple will never support his plan, he puts on his black glove and announces, Very well, Yujin. I entrust Ayin to you. Dong Uk orders him to teach the girl well and make her a true Archmage. As long as Yujin does not interfere with his own work, Dong Uk will support the dream, though he cannot hide his regret. What a shame! You once made me hope for so much, and now you disappoint me. He lifts Yujin's face, and says he is the only person who ever moved the Archmage's heart this deeply. Facing his great master, Yujin makes one request. He promises that Ayan will become the second greatest Archmage. The expectations Dong Uk once placed on Yujin should now be placed entirely upon her. A burst of fire appears in the academy room as the two return. Ayan, waiting anxiously, cheers when she sees her father emerge. Dong Uk asks whether she waited long because his conversation with Yujin took some time. Hearing that she has been unable to use magic properly for roughly 14 years, his voice fills with sorrow. He admits he could never feel happy watching his daughter risk her life merely to meet his expectations. Placing a hand on her shoulder, he says he only wants her to discover a dream she genuinely wishes to pursue as a mage. Ayan chokes up, having believed he cared only about results. Before she can finish, Dong Uk embraces her tightly and says that before being a disciple he could be proud of, she was already the daughter he loved most in the world. No goal, effort, or result can ever change that. His warm words leave Ayan sobbing with happiness. Dong Uk hopes she finds a purpose worthy of her effort, and she promises to do her very best. Watching with folded arms, Yujin smiles contentedly behind his usual terrifying appearance. Dong Uk finally turns to his most trusted disciple. The decision is final. Director Yujin, I entrust Ayan to you. Yujin answers. Please leave her to me. Yujin is moved by the loving gaze his master still gives him. But the emotional mood instantly disappears when he turns calmly to Dong Uk. Then let us discuss tuition. Ayan freezes in disbelief. Yujin enthusiastically shows the payment plan on his phone. Ayan explodes. Wait, you are charging me? Yujin smiles innocently. Of course. You are enrolling in this academy. Ayan protests because she thought her uncle would teach her for free as family. Yujin explains that he prepared a special private course specifically for her, and waiving the fee would be unfair to other students. He insists the price is already very reasonable. Seeing his daughter troubled, Dong Uk generously offers to pay everything for her. But Ayan immediately refuses. She is 22 and a true adult, so she no longer wants to rely on her father. She will pay from the savings earned through her own work. Dong Uk smiles proudly, while Yujin privately admires how much she has grown. Ayan then begins closing her old office so she can focus on studying. She orders all expensive magical equipment sold, including her most valuable combat suit. She pays cancellation penalties for unfinished contracts and settles charitable commitments for the next 5 years. Her assistant worries that severance payments from Ayan's personal money will nearly exhaust her savings. Yet Ayan insists on fulfilling her minimum responsibility to everyone who served her and keeping the finances transparent so neither her reputation nor her father's is harmed. She sells her home, moves into monthly rented housing, and cuts expenses to pursue her new studies at Yujin's academy. Remembering her father's warm encouragement, Ayan tears up and answers firmly, Yes. Outside Yujin Magic Academy, Dong Uk suddenly receives an important call. His expression turns serious as he hears the report. I understand. I will go confirm it myself. A mysterious organization appears to have surfaced, enough to move the world's greatest Archmage. He opens the car door and apologizes to the two younger people. Lunch will have to wait. Something urgent has come up. Yujin waves regretfully and promises to find a good restaurant next time. Ayan tells her father not to worry and to travel safely. Before leaving, Dong Uk reminds them to get along, stay healthy, and call if they need anything. The moment the farewells end, the Archmage's car disappears in a burst of golden teleportation smoke. Yujin stares helplessly. If he can teleport, why bring the car at all? Ayan privately thinks her father is strange, then lowers her head sadly. I wish he had called my name first. Noticing her mood, Yujin brightly suggests that they go eat by themselves. When he asks whether she still likes tteokbokki, Ayan immediately agrees. Cheap food suits her because recent unexpected expenses make expensive meals impossible. Yujin promises to pay. At a simple roadside restaurant, he watches her eat and asks directly, So you chose the demanding combat magic major? Let me eat first. Ayan grumbles about him using her real name in public, then explains seriously. She did not choose combat because she likes fighting. The fastest way to improve spell control is through battles that force a mage to use and judge magic at the limit, making combat magic the best fit. Yujin agrees that most mages skilled at manipulation either specialize in combat, or study it alongside another field. He tells her sincerely that he would prefer not to train her dangerously, but he himself created runeless magic under extreme conditions. He promises to remain beside her, and keep training within controllable conditions. Ayan immediately asks him to explain runeless magic in detail, including how to train and use it to become an Archmage. As they walk, Yujin explains its nature. Runeless magic connects consciousness to every material and phenomenon one perceives and touches, allowing them to transform and reconstruct it at will. Once mastered, a person can change not only their own body but also the properties, form, and mass of anything they touch. Ayan remains skeptical and cannot understand how this works without mana. Yujin says extraordinary awareness requires foundational energy first, and that energy is scientific understanding of the structure and properties of everything in the world. He slams down a towering stack of books before his stunned student. First, memorize everything in these. Seeing titles on molecular structure, thermodynamics, anatomy, and physiology, Ayan wants to go home and sleep. The material is so difficult that even doctors and scientists struggle with it, and some books are written in foreign languages. Yujin asks casually, 2 weeks should be more than enough, right? Ayan screams, 2 weeks? 14 days? He says he does not want her rushing, but the foundation is mandatory. Yujin remembers studying the same material diligently at age 6. Ayan looks at him in horror and realizes the difference between herself and the disciple her father always praised. Yujin modestly says it took him almost a month to memorize everything. But because Ayan is the great Archmage's daughter, 2 weeks should certainly be sufficient. Her pride provoked, Ayan declares that 2 weeks is more than enough for the bloodline of the genius Dong Uk. She regrets the boast the instant it leaves her mouth. Yujin praises her enthusiasm but warns her not to rush. He calculates a complete path and gives a number that nearly makes her faint. Following his curriculum to become an Archmage will take approximately 27 years and 7 months. Ayan gasps at 27 years. She had focused on Yujin's extraordinary techniques without considering the actual timeline. Once calm, she remembers that even her father needed over a century to reach his level, making 27 years astonishingly fast. She agrees that 27 years is extremely short for a mage, but urgently asks how long it will take to recover her previous skill level. Yujin asks what that level was. Proudly, Ayan says she held the highest battle mage rank, sorcerer, and was close to promotion to mystic. Yujin has no idea what those unfamiliar ranks mean, but tells himself to appear professional. He changes the plan. He had intended to wait until she memorized the books, but parallel practical training may be useful. He approaches a cabinet, understanding her anxiety over being unable to use magic normally. In a mysterious voice, he proposes that before she masters runeless magic, she should also practice the sensation of spellcasting through a method that does not use her body's mana. He suggests finding a partner who can serve as an artificial mana source. Yujin begins telling her about the incident 14 years earlier when he fell into another dimension. His body was in terrible condition after his master's betrayal, a description whose optimism amazes Ayan. Floating in the dangerous gap between dimensions, he drew inspiration from native creatures, creating runeless magic and preserving his life. He classifies the creatures of that second dimension as fairies. Seeing her curiosity, he prepares a gate to their world and asks seriously, "Do you remember my instructions?" Putting on her coat, Ayan repeats the oath, never release the rope, never fall asleep, and only move forward. Once she is ready, Yujin concentrates. Black energy pours from his body and strange runes appear on his pale skin. He activates runeless magic to connect with another dimension. A horrifying portal to the fairy world opens in the floor. Ayan is shocked by the absurd feat normally. More than 10 elite mages and a national budget are needed to maintain such a gate for only minutes. Yujin creates it alone with ease, making the goal of becoming an Archmage feel even farther away. Yujin gives her a green vine and instructs her to hold it tightly, remain calm, and return safely. Ayan grips the vine and tells herself that to succeed, she must master magic beyond even this monster-like man. Are you sure? I only need to enter and call your name, and they will help me? Ayan takes the vine hesitantly. Yujin assures her that he is very close to the fairies, and that even his coat was their gift. Though worried and guilty about sending her alone, he must remain behind to keep the gate open. Trusting him, Ayan takes a deep breath and steps into the black vortex, disappearing into another dimension. Watching his student vanish, Yujin thinks that the girl seems to fear nothing. But he does not know that a group is secretly watching from the rooftop across the street. Headmaster Choi Yak stands there scheming. He believes even Dong Ayan was defeated by the monster Yujin so badly that she dissolved her company and fled overseas. He dismisses the rumor that Friedrich fought Yujin and fled as ridiculous. In his arrogance, Choi Yak insists Yujin could never survive against a mage as powerful as himself. He intends not only to capture Yujin and avenge his humiliation, but also erase his long-standing inferiority. When a subordinate hesitantly asks whether they are attacking an innocent man, Choi Yak glares furiously. He shouts that Yujin is not merely ugly, but a terrifying threat to the entire world. To Choi Yak, Yujin's magic is so grotesque that it cannot be called magic at all. Such an entity should not exist and must be destroyed to prevent future disasters. He claims to act entirely for innocent citizens. His men still tremble because Yujin defeated Dong Ayan. Choi Yak berates their cowardice and says they lost to Ayan only because they acted hastily without preparation. He believes that with enough information and preparation, even an inferior force can defeat a superior enemy. He orders Sung to demonstrate the technique he learned in Northern Europe for dealing with regenerating monsters. Choi Yak stresses that he paid a fortune and will tolerate no mistakes. Sung confidently activates a red magic circle, saying the spell was specially designed to capture creatures that can regenerate from even a tiny fragment. Reassured, Choi Yak orders the entire team to prepare enhancement spells and hold their battle positions. He believes correcting the Archmage's mistake will greatly raise his academy's standing in the Union. Multicolored mana surrounds the group as they prepare a brutal revenge attack aimed directly at Yujin. Meanwhile, in the other dimension, Ayan is enduring the most terrifying moments of her life. The moment she lands, the crushing pressure leaves her gasping, and she realizes the bitter truth about the fairies her teacher described. Before her is no friendly kingdom, but a dead land filled with shadowy entities whose countless red eyes stare at her with ravenous hunger. Trembling, Ayan grips the rope tightly. She realizes she has been sent somewhere no different from hell. Forcing herself to remain calm as the red-eyed creatures surround her, she notices that despite filling every empty space, they still allow her to move and breathe. She clutches the vine, her only connection to the real world, and repeats her teacher's warnings like a protective charm. Never let go, never fall asleep, and only move forward. Walking through the strange substance feels like pushing through a gigantic mass of sticky jelly. The more she breathes, the stronger the nausea becomes. Her mind grows foggy and exhausted. She silently curses Yujin for never warning her about this horrible environment, where the creatures do not attack but constantly mutter in human-like voices. Ayan forces herself onward to find the speaking tribe her teacher mentioned. Her head feels ready to burst, her body is on the verge of collapse, and her mind seems to stop functioning altogether. Floating through the endless void, she feels deceived and abandoned in this cursed place. Her body seems to melt, her senses fade, and an irresistible sleepiness overwhelms her. In the pitch-black dimension, the grotesque entities silently surround the girl as she sinks toward a deep coma. Meanwhile, back at Yujin Academy, Yujin happily watches videos on his phone. Laughing at the amusing advertisements, he believes they will attract plenty of viewers. He is about to discuss current youth trends when a spell suddenly blasts him directly in the face. That was close. He realizes disaster has struck twice at once. He must maintain the connection for Ayan while dealing with a surprise attack. As he wonders who ambushed him, Headmaster Choi Yak emerges from the smoke with a triumphant expression. Looking down at the struggling mage, he sneers, "Yujin, are you still doing well?" His elite subordinates quickly surround Yujin from every direction, leaving no escape. Choi Yak admits he spent the entire night awake thinking about Yujin's existence and believes he will finally sleep peacefully once this threat is eliminated. Yet staring into Yujin's bottomless black eyes, he feels an icy fear gnawing at every nerve. It feels as though the monster wants to devour him alive. Choi Yak declares that such a creature must be erased immediately to preserve order. Yujin, however, is confused by the obsession. "Headmaster, losing sleep over me does not sound healthy." Yujin thought their misunderstanding had ended, so he cannot understand this attack. Memories of his master's teachings return. As a child reading a book on forbidden spells, he once asked Archmage Dong Uk why magical approval procedures were so complicated. His master patiently explained that high-impact spells such as teleportation and summoning would be extremely dangerous without strict control by the Mage Association. If such power fell into evil hands without oversight, the consequences would be limitless and catastrophic. Yujin thought it was no different from a nuclear bomb. Dong Uk wanted him to gain enough authority and public trust to use magic legitimately, fearing that one day he might no longer be there to protect or vouch for him. Those words sharply contrast with the present, where Yujin is hunted and treated like a monster. He suddenly realizes the attackers are using magic to track and assault him without association approval, a serious legal violation. He asks coldly whether the headmaster has authorization. Choi Yak openly admits he will accept punishment for his impulsive actions later, but refuses to stop casting until Yujin is defeated. His subordinates immediately activate a coordinated dual cast formation, weaving powerful energy streams into a full assault. Yujin is shocked by Choi Yak's extreme fury. Good grief, he really is angry. This is no longer a joke. As someone who follows the law absolutely, Yujin can only try to reason with him. "Headmaster, please calm down and listen to my explanation." His goodwill is answered by another barrage of fire spells. Yujin thinks modern mages are far too aggressive. Even knowing he cannot be easily killed, they attack without pause. He plans to regenerate first and talk afterward, but suddenly freezes in surprise. His burning arm shows no sign of healing. Choi Yak approaches slowly with a victorious smile. "What's wrong? Trapped? You cannot keep your mind clear, can you?" He proudly reveals a regeneration sealing charm, an advanced spell his disciple learned from monster hunters in Northern Europe. It blocks the restoration of both living tissue and inorganic matter, rendering Yujin's regenerative magic useless. Yujin recognizes it as a weaker version of the seal his master once used on him. Its structure is simple but cleverly arranged. Normally, he could dismantle it easily with delicate spellwork, but most of his mental capacity is currently devoted to maintaining Ain's dimensional gate. The situation becomes critical. If Yujin stops chanting or loses the use of his hands, Ain's connection to this world will be severed, creating a deadly and complicated crisis for her. Yujin lowers himself and pleads. "Headmaster, I beg you. This is not only about my safety." But Choi Yak has completely lost reason. He orders everyone to attack, shouting that Yujin is an immortal monster and must be crushed into hundreds of pieces with full firepower. A storm of attacks crashes down. Yujin can only shout desperately, "Everyone wait! Just one moment!" Ignoring his pleas, the mages tear into him without mercy. Using all his strength to shield himself, Yujin screams, "Do not touch my head or hands! Please stop for 1 second!" A colossal explosion blows away part of Yujin Academy in a cloud of smoke and debris. Meanwhile, in the other dimension, Ain lies motionless in the abyss. A deep, eerie voice whispers beside her, "Wake up." She jolts conscious and finds a gigantic entity with blazing red eyes staring threateningly down at her. She has no idea how long she has been there. Ain awakens to the creature's low voice. "At last. I had to interfere with your brain and accelerate your adaptation by force." Horrified, she realizes she almost released the only rope connecting her to the real world. The entity calls her a careless lost child, but Ain quickly regains composure. Realizing these are the intelligent beings her teacher mentioned, she explains, "Thank you. I did not come here by mistake. Uncle Yujin helped me reach this world." She hopes to receive help from her teacher's friends. But the instant Yujin's name is spoken, the atmosphere becomes suffocating. The creature's red eyes bore into her. You! Did you say Yujin? That Yujin? They roar excitedly after recognizing his scent on her, yet their reaction quickly becomes strange and threatening. The entities scream Yujin's name in furious excitement and order. Seize her! Capture her now! Ayan is dragged helplessly into a gigantic mouth. She cannot understand why mentioning Yujin provokes such anger. Entangled in slimy tentacles, Ayan struggles to interpret their reaction. The creatures mock her use of the word friends. Friends? Yujin and us? You are badly mistaken. They insist that anyone who has met him should know the truth and force her to listen. They demand that she show respect and greet the sacred presence of this world. Before Ayan understands what they mean, an immense entity emerges from the endless darkness, radiating pressure that paralyzes her completely. She is the queen, the mother of us all. A colossal eye looks down at tiny Ayan as though ready to swallow her. Meanwhile, in the real world, Yujin is still being burned by the merciless fire magic of Choi Yak's followers. The attackers celebrate because the regeneration seal is working. Yujin's body has become a charred, smoking corpse, yet somehow he remains alive. Choi Yak grinds his teeth, unable to understand how to deal with such an impossible monster. Although Yujin protects his head and hands, maintaining the gate while his body is destroyed has exceeded his limits. Exhausted, he can only urge Ayan inwardly not to freeze and let fear control her. Headmaster Choi Yak roars while waving his staff and urging his trembling followers onward. Pointing at Yujin's burned body still shielding the gate, he screams that no normal human could look like that and remain alive. Seeing the black pool beneath Yujin shrink, Choi Yak assumes it is a sign of weakness. He approaches confidently to deliver the final blow. Let me end this. Yujin, can you still hear me? Choi mocks his stubbornness. Despite being beaten nearly to death, Yujin refuses to retaliate and only protects the suspicious pool. Choi says he does not care what the pool is, because Yujin must be preparing some dark spell. He asks why it is important enough that Yujin refuses to use his monstrous transformation to defend himself. Convinced he represents justice, Choi condemns Yujin for spreading fear among citizens. Raising his flaming staff, Choi Yak declares he will settle every debt here and bring Yujin before the Alliance Tribunal. Then Yujin's deep voice emerges from the ashes. Headmaster Choi Yak, I am not trying to excuse myself. I understand my mistakes and sincerely accept any punishment I deserve. His pale hands remain fixed inside the dimensional gate even as flames burn through his flesh. Yujin pleads. So please give me a little more time. I will pull her out now. Choi Yak snaps. Pull what out? Fearing another trick, he swings his staff down with lethal force. Choi believes the gravely injured Yujin has reached the end. This strike should finish him. But at that instant, a strange change makes the headmaster freeze. Dark energy erupts violently from the gate, and Choi realizes he can no longer cut through it easily. As shadow tentacles emerge around him, Yujin endures the pain and says firmly, You have worked hard, Headmaster Choi. I am sorry. Just a little longer, even if I must pay with my life. A terrifying entity with countless eyes and razor-sharp teeth begins forming in the void. In the other dimension, its deep voice asks Ayan, So Yujin sent you here? Ayan looks up at the immense shadow covering her, and realizes it dwarfs every magical creature she has ever seen. Its glowing eye focuses on her. Little one, are you Yujin's blood relative? Under the crushing pressure, Ayan stammers that she is not family, only his disciple. The entity studies the strong scent of Yujin around her, then murmurs. I understand. So he finally chose that path. But when Ayan calls them friends, the atmosphere becomes heavy again. The entity growls. Friends? Yujin calls us that? Does he still think we regard him merely as a friend? Ayan pales as the creatures around her transform menacingly. She curses inwardly. Even without reading their expressions, this certainly does not feel friendly. She assumes insensitive Yujin offended them without noticing and recklessly sent her here alone. Then the entity corrects her. Let me be clear. Yujin is the one great savior of this world. Ayan is stunned. What kind of savior terrifies his disciple half to death? The entity explains that their feelings toward the hero who sacrificed himself to save their world go far beyond friendship, reaching limitless gratitude and reverence. If you are Yujin's disciple, then you are our most honored guest. I formally welcome you. Black tentacles gently lift Ayan as its voice softens. Ayan exhales in relief and thanks the creature. It asks warmly whether Yujin is well and assumes he must still be busy helping people in his world. Hearing such respect for her uncle, Ayan can only answer awkwardly. Privately, she is overwhelmed. What did Yujin do to be treated like royalty here? The enormous eye moves closer and asks seriously. Disciple of Yujin, tell me why you came. Ayan explains honestly that she currently cannot use magic because of a personal problem. Yujin sent her here hoping they could help restore it. The entity realizes she means the technique Yujin developed from their species' traits and agrees to send one of its children to accompany her in the human world. Ayan thanks it, but before she can celebrate, smaller entities rush forward and wrap around her, shouting, Choose me! I want to go with you! They call it a golden opportunity to explore the other world and meet Yujin again. Ayan is pulled back and forth as they argue over whose energy would help her most. Their desire to meet her teacher seems even stronger than their wish to assist her. Half laughing and half crying, Ayan thinks Yujin has the charisma of a superstar. These spirits inspired his special magic. Their appearance is hardly appealing, but she is willing to accept anything to recover her power. While she thinks, Yujin's urgent voice suddenly arrives through a small spirit. Ayan, are you not coming back yet? Things are getting noisy over here. Hearing him, the surrounding spirits erupt with joy and greet their old benefactor. Yujin cheerfully asks how everyone has been. One spirit asks whether Yujin still wears the outfit they gave him. He proudly says it suits his taste, and he always wears it. They chat as though nothing dangerous is happening. The spirits asked him to visit when he has time, but because the real world is in crisis, Yujin apologizes and urges Ayan to return immediately. While the spirits are still fighting over who will accompany her, the great entity decides. There is no need to choose. Take this child. A small blue-black creature instantly leaps forward and clings to Ayan's face. Before she can resist, it begins entering her body. Yujin hurriedly says goodbye and closes the gate. Watching them disappear, the great entity reflects that although Yujin's choice may not fit human standards, she respects it. She thinks Yujin's nature has never changed. He is always willing to sacrifice himself and become a support for others, even when the source of the trouble is his former master Dong Uk. Ayan's scream echoes as she is pulled back into the real world. At the same time, an enemy shrieks. My arm! What's happening to my arm? Sun watches in horror as black tentacles gnaw and deform it. Yujin stands tall and calmly assures him it will not hurt. Only then do Choi Yak's mages realize Yujin endured their attack solely to protect Ayan's gate. The regeneration seal has somehow been disabled, and enormous shadow tentacles seize every subordinate, lifting them helplessly into the air. Staring at Yujin's inhuman form, Choi Yak wonders whether he is truly human. Bitterly, he realizes that his own fear and inferiority have put his disciples in danger. Reinforcements rush in to report, only to freeze at the horror before them. Choi Yak orders everyone to pour all their mana into a second-tier spell and rescue the trapped disciples, despite warnings about using such magic here. He insists he will accept responsibility later and charges into the black tentacles, sincerely apologizing that his stubbornness caused his students to suffer. Once the rescue is complete, he orders everyone to retreat, get down, and deploy any remaining barriers. The battle has not only failed but left his students devastated. Choi Yak gathers his strength for a second-tier spell, hoping to seal Yujin even briefly. At that moment, Ayan crawls out of the black mass, adjusts her hat, and mutters in exhaustion. Good grief, Teacher Yujin. Seeing her teacher reduced to a gaunt, ghost-like wreck, she is bewildered. She complains that if he planned to send her somewhere so bizarre, he should at least have explained it first. Yujin weakly apologizes, while Choi Yak stares in shock. Didong Ayan? Why did you come out of there? He is confused because reports said she had gone abroad and cannot understand why she is here with Yujin. Yujin explains that Ayan lost her magic, so he accepted her into the academy to teach her runeless magic, a system he created that requires no mana. Because she was impatient, he sent her to another dimension to seek help from the spirits who once sheltered him. While explaining that dimensional magic is tightly regulated, Yujin suddenly fades. I'm exhausted. So sleepy. He collapses onto the grass and immediately falls into a deep sleep as though hypnotized. At that moment, police sirens echo nearby. Inspector Kim Sung-hoon arrives at the academy with the authorities after receiving reports of a major disturbance. Seeing the ruined grounds and Yujin lying unconscious, he can only exclaim in shock. What happened here? Ayan stands silently, covering her face in exhaustion. Looking at the chaos, she mutters bitterly. This is a disaster. Now that the police are involved, things will get complicated. Yujin suddenly wakes from his exhaustion. Standing behind him, Ayan sighs in relief. You're finally awake. Irritated, she urges him to deal with the loud argument nearby. Seeing Inspector Kim at the scene, Yujin tells Ayan to wait and slowly walks toward the authorities. Amid speculation about the intuition of a first-class mage, Yujin suddenly raises both hands and declares, I surrender. Inspector Kim and Headmaster Choi Yak both freeze. Yujin calmly confesses. You came to arrest me for illegally using teleportation magic, didn't you? He admits he acted without thinking and is ready to accept any punishment. While Choi Yak is still stunned by his attitude, Inspector Kim explodes at Pram Academy's mages for using magic to wreck the neighborhood just to gang up on one man. Inspector Kim roars that this was a deliberate assault and clearly attempted murder. He warns that the academy will never be safe from the consequences of such a serious criminal record. Cornered, Choi Yak shouts back that Yujin is no longer human, but a dangerous monster whose threat he recognized first. He mocks Inspector Kim for being fooled by Yujin's gentle act and asks whether, on their first meeting, the inspector truly did not look at him with disgust. Yujin remembers once being riddled with police gunfire because of a misunderstanding. Instead of resisting, Yujin brought them coffee and praised their tireless service to public safety. With his smoking, bullet-riddled face, he even offered milk, assuming they had shot an innocent man only because they were exhausted. Then he casually dragged over the magical criminal he had captured and wondered where he was supposed to leave him. Seeing the situation growing tense, Ayan asks Yujin how he wants to handle it. She promises that if he confirms he is the victim, she will immediately arrest everyone from Pram Academy for trespassing and aggravated assault. Given the chance to clear his name, Yujin covers his face thoughtfully, then suddenly bursts into eerie laughter. The frightening sound leaves Ayan and the police frozen. Yujin bows deeply to Headmaster Choi Yak. I'm sorry. I'm not used to this sort of situation. Scratching his head awkwardly, he makes a decision that shocks everyone. Let them go. To Ayan's and even Choi Yak's disbelief, Yujin accepts part of the blame, saying his actions caused the misunderstanding. Insecurely, he admits that perhaps Choi truly perceived him as a threat. His appearance probably made everyone uncomfortable. Looking at Yujin's sinewy hands and grotesque smile, Choi Yak sweats, unable to understand what game he is playing. Yujin enthusiastically approaches, throws an arm around Choi Yak's shoulder, and gives him an encouraging thumbs up. Relax, Headmaster Choi. You're quite handsome too. He assures the old man that modern students are not cruel enough to transfer schools merely because of a teacher's appearance, and tells him to be confident. Then Yujin pulls out his phone. While we're at it, let's exchange numbers. He says this meeting must be fate and that fellow educators should stay in touch, share meals and coffee, and exchange teaching experience. Yujin leans close and whispers confidentially. But I prefer women, so please understand. He laughs brightly, leaving everyone speechless. At that moment, unfamiliar mages in Western-style uniforms appear and mock Ayan. They repeat rumors that she lost her magic and went abroad for treatment after fighting Friedrich. Seeing her still in Korea, their leader sneers that Friedrich must be insane to abandon them and fight Ayan alone until she lost her power. They threaten to expose her legal violations if word spreads. Ayan's rage erupts. Pointing at the arrogant group, she tells Yujin loudly, "These people said they want to enroll in your school." The mages turn pale in shock. Yujin, however, brightens. Really? Standing before the Yujin Magic Academy sign, Ayan worries as the crowd whispers about the place. She knows those people will not stay quiet and that more trouble will soon arrive. She asks anxiously, Yujin, can you handle it? He simply walks ahead, complaining about the exhausting day and the mountain of problems. He plans to warn her about what happened after she returned from the spirit world. But Ayan suddenly grabs his face and screams, This mouth! The most exhausting thing is this endlessly talking mouth. She berates him for letting the entire neighborhood know she lost her magic. She had clearly told him not to tell anyone, yet within hours he revealed the secret to Headmaster Choi. Yujin awkwardly explains that otherwise Choi would have misunderstood, and since they have just become close friends, the headmaster will surely keep it confidential. Ayan snaps that there is no friendship. Just days ago, Choi tried to organize a group attack against him. When Yujin blankly asks what group attack she means, she storms away and says she will be busy tomorrow morning. She will return in the afternoon. Yujin waves goodbye, thinking he can tell her tomorrow about the person sent by old man Friedrich. Alone, he cleans up and reflects that it has been an eventful day. He reunited with his master and gained Ayan as a student. He also happily thinks about his new friend Choi Yak and plans to call him frequently. In reality, Choi is lucky he did not run away screaming. Contrary to Yujin's optimism, Ayan walks home alone in tears. Humiliated by the rumors spreading everywhere, she cries out at the unfairness of life and wonders whether she can continue trusting Yujin. At a secret facility, two doctors wonder when they will be allowed to leave after being kidnapped to operate on Friedrich. They stare out the window in despair, with nothing to do. A man approaches Sari, who is drinking coffee, and pleads, Doctor, you're close to Archmage Dong UK, aren't you? Please contact him and ask him to rescue us. A shadow suddenly passes, startling him. A disturbing image haunts his mind, a foolish-looking man whose presence felt as though he did not belong in this world. Friedrich speaks with Archmage Dong UK by phone. When the old friend asks whether Yujin is truly his student, Dong UK smiles and says of course. Past or future, no one can compare. Yujin remains his most outstanding and proudest disciple. Friedrich admits that after meeting Yujin, he finally understands why Dong UK was so desperate. Yujin sustains his life through a suspicious method, a state that should not exist and differs completely from ordinary necromancy. He seems half human and half ghost, impossible to explain. Even ordinary people feel fear and nausea merely standing near him. For battle mages, instinct urges them to destroy him immediately. The longer hatred is nurtured, the stronger survival instinct becomes, clouding reason before an undeniable abnormality. Hearing this, Dong UK can only sigh and call Yujin a damned little demon. Friedrich walks slowly through the darkness. He sees Yujin as a strange catalyst that shattered his rigid assumptions and inspired unexpected new ideas. Just wait, Dong UK. My declaration of war is coming. He promises fireworks to welcome a new era, a horrifying spectacle neither mages nor ordinary people will ever forget. Behind his sunglasses, his face twists into a murderous, insane smile. After Dong UK hangs up, Friedrich curses him for being rude to a senior. Even so, he orders Sari to begin the plan, ignoring her complaint that he has no respect for others. Although Linus is absent, the Zodiac organization gathers beneath glowing pillars of energy. Friedrich declares that everyone has separate duties but must personally fulfill them toward a common goal, destroying the false nursery Dong UK worked so hard to build. He refuses to follow Dong UK's path. Friedrich wants a world where magic becomes the absolute tool of mage domination, a revolution that will render even immortals like Dong UK powerless. Friedrich admits his recent experience cost him dearly, but taught him that the world has changed. The organization's former plans were too vague, and now they must act more boldly and completely. With hatred on his grotesque face, he declares their supreme objective begins with killing Dong UK. In a dark, closed meeting, shadowy figures complain about gathering in person merely to hear a few orders instead of meeting online. The discussion turns tense when the target of killing the Archmage is mentioned. Amid arguments over whether it is nonsense or a real plan, one member casually eats at the round table. Chewing a chicken leg, he admits he was snacking. Another asks how the plan could possibly work, because if they succeeded, even the Alliance could not stop them. To him, The Alliance Archmages are walking corpses as long as Dong Uk is not there to interfere. Friedrich growls that once the leader is removed, everyone may take whatever prey they desire. His long-held dream is a world where mages rule through absolute power, but he has compromised too much because of Dong Uk's existence. He orders them to do whatever they want from now on, seize whatever they desire, and cause as much chaos as they please. Raising his glass like an oath, Friedrich declares that Dong Uk's disgusting ideals will never again threaten Zodiac's future or decisions. At a modern research building, Ayan rubs her aching head in irritation. Unbelievable! He has not changed at all since I was a child. A disheveled gray-haired woman beside her says her father spoiled her too much, and that such a personality will never change. She notes that the concealment magic on Ayan's hat has limits, making her recognizable even from afar. Putting on her coat, Ayan asks for her opinion about her heart. Although Yujin said it was fine, she wanted Dr. Cecilia to examine it for reassurance. The gray-haired woman is Dr. Cecilia. Sipping coffee while studying an image of the sparkling heart on her monitor, she says that aside from its strangely cute shape, its functions are completely normal. Cecilia calls it an exceptionally rare masterpiece. Ayan asks why a heart with no mana crystal deserves such praise. Cecilia explains that as an ordinary human heart, it is nearly perfect. She marvels that Yujin vanished for over a decade and returned with yet another mad invention, completely removing the mana crystal while perfectly restoring cardiac function. Ayan adjusts her hat and repeats Yujin's term, runeless magic, magic requiring no mana that he invented himself. She states firmly that he promised to teach her, and that her lessons begin today. Studying the scan, Cecilia thinks the concept sounds like fraud, but because Yujin did it, it somehow makes sense. Although Ayan's flesh and bones were altered, her nerves and blood vessels functioned perfectly. Cecilia mutters that treating her had been exhausting, then tells Ayan to stop taking all heart-stabilizing medicine. She even says coffee, alcohol, or cigarettes are now physically safe if she wants them. Ayan is stunned that a doctor would recommend such things and says she has no interest in coffee anyway. Cecilia smirks and says not to judge coffee after drinking cheap beans. She promises to show her where to buy quality coffee. Ayan waves goodbye, saying she will contact Cecilia if any problem arises. Cecilia warns her not to cause trouble. Alone, she studies Ayan's brain MRI while sipping coffee. She is deeply puzzled. The heart is completely normal, but a huge foreign object is embedded deep inside the brain. She cannot understand why it causes no outward symptoms. The machines detect it clearly, yet Ayan behaves as though nothing is there. Exhausted, Cecilia collapses onto her desk and assumes Yujin must have done something. She declares her post-operative warranty service for Archmage Dong Uk's daughter officially finished. At the academy, Yujin begins class by categorizing crystal systems. He asks Ayan for the lattice parameters of a hexagonal system and 3 metals belonging to it. Without hesitation, she gives the axis lengths, angles, and examples such as magnesium, zinc, and cobalt. He then asks for the predicted geometry and bond angle of a molecule with 2 bonding pairs and 2 lone pairs. Ayan correctly answers bent geometry and a bond angle reduction from 109.5 to 104.5 degrees, but questions whether this is truly necessary for runeless magic. It seems unrelated to any magic she knows. Yujin enthusiastically insists it is essential and praises her for answering trick questions perfectly. Ayan removes her glasses and proudly says she only skimmed the basics before sleeping. Yujin approves of the method and says she must sleep 7 to 8 hours each night. He explains that memorizing for 1 or 2 hours before bed helps transfer information into long-term memory. He emphasizes that a good night's sleep clears accumulated adenosine from the brain, making logical thinking strongest in the morning for reviewing unclear material. Yujin continues seriously, during intensive study, do not waste the golden morning period scrolling online immediately after waking. Ayan watches skeptically and wonders where he is looking while speaking. Still, she admits his advice is partly correct and that her sharp mind is natural given who her father is. Yet something feels wrong. Her brain was never this fast when she was younger. Rubbing her aching head, Ayan wonders whether stress from Yujin's antics is responsible. Since leaving the other dimension, she feels as though two brains are operating inside her. Then she suddenly remembers the strange creature that entered her head. Ayan slams the table and leaps up. That's right! The thing that crawled into my head yesterday. How could I forget? Yujin calmly approaches with his smiling face and says he was planning to examine it. Furious, she asks why he did not check such a serious issue yesterday. He explains she said she was tired and tells her to sit, relax, and remain still. He covers Ayan's head with black tentacles to inspect it. She thinks this is exactly what she should have expected from a man who casually pulled out and crushed her heart. Then Yujin suddenly exclaims in astonishment. He peels back a layer of black matter and reveals what lies inside. He had not examined it carefully before, but now it is obvious. Ayan, this thing is about to break through its shell and come out. She screams that this is not an appropriate phrase while opening someone's skull and staring at the brain. Yujin continues observing and wonders whether freezing it would be better than letting it escape. He realizes in shock that it is the queen's offspring, born only once per generation, yet entrusted to Ayan. Hearing that it is the queen's offspring, Ayan becomes excited and asks how powerful it is compared with normal spirits. Remembering the queen's terrifying might, possibly greater than a dragon's, she dreams that controlling such an offspring might let her become an Archmage in under a year instead of 27. A strange sensation interrupts her fantasy as something truly begins emerging from her head. Black vapor bursts outward. Ayan staggers, while Yujin exclaims that the situation is incredible. She stares at the newly emerged creature and eagerly asks whether its appearance is merely a disguise. Before them sits a tiny pale blue being with soft tentacles wriggling on the floor. Ayan expects it to support and perform runeless magic exactly as Yujin promised. Yujin watches the little creature chirp innocently and scratches his head. Why is it so cute? When Ayan demands clarity, he apologizes and admits he does not know. It has only just been born, and the queen's traits differ entirely from ordinary spirits, so its personality and abilities will develop slowly like a child's. Ayan asks how long it will take to reach even half, or 1/100th, of the queen's size. Yujin explains that ordinary spirits need around 3,000 years to mature, while the queen may be tens of thousands of years old. He advises her to raise it carefully and discover its purpose over time. Ayan watches the creature yawn and complains that she did not sign up to raise a pet when she can barely manage herself. Meanwhile, in a secret basement, Zodiac members hold an emergency meeting. Their leader summarizes the plan while wiping blood from his hands and orders every viable option reported immediately once Dong UK disappears. The subordinates complain about the long lecture and ask to leave for food and rest. He angrily tells them the feast was not placed there for decoration and orders them out. A large screen suddenly lights up. Friedrich tells everyone to examine the file he uploaded. The disturbing image thickens the atmosphere. A businesswoman in the group pauses and asks what game he is playing. She says the man's presence is unpleasant and that she has seen him before. He destroyed one of her magical material factories. Another member says he had planned either to eliminate Yujin later or recruit him if he proved useful. Friedrich gives a grave warning. Do not touch him unless absolutely necessary. If you encounter him by accident, ignore him and leave immediately. The red-skinned, horned elder questions Friedrich's fear. How dangerous could such a pathetic-looking man be? Is he an acquaintance? Friedrich raises his missing arm and says Yujin caused it. He escaped only by sacrificing his heart. That is why the lion position remains vacant, and he wonders why loyal Linus is absent. Friedrich laughs bitterly while looking at the vase of chrysanthemums. He once wondered why Dong UK fled, but now understands that even the great Archmage becomes soft in front of his daughter. The elder sprawled across the table remarks that Dong UK has lost his former spirit. She says his unusual silence made her suspicious. So Friedrich has finally met a worthy opponent? Is Yujin truly that frightening? Curious about the man who reduced Friedrich to this state, she presses him for details. After a pause, Friedrich answers. Exactly. He admits that although he was unprepared, it was the first time in his life he felt so completely overwhelmed. After more than a century and countless battles, he had never encountered anything as grotesque as Yujin. Had he stubbornly continued, he would have suffered a crushing defeat. The horned woman finds it strange that what should sound like a joke no longer does. She mocks Friedrich, who was loudly discussing killing Dong Uk moments ago, but now fears an unknown man. Still, the strongest battle mage's shaken confidence fascinates her. You look truly pathetic. Her insults grow cruel. She is disappointed that the man to whom she once offered absolute loyalty has become so cowardly. If Friedrich intends to disappoint her this way, she demands the Capricorn position and tells him to disappear. Her powerful stomp cracks the floor, revealing a serious fracture within Zodiac. Watching the scene, Sari complains that the words are too hurtful, especially toward an elder. The red-haired woman smirks and claims it was only an ordinary kick without mana. Sari immediately counters that without her barrier, Friedrich's head would already be shattered. Sari scolds her sister for treating her so badly while Friedrich does not even bother defending himself. She orders her sister to remove her foot before it is cut off and to retract her magic instead of wasting it. As the red-haired woman turns away, Friedrich suddenly calls after her. If you remain unconvinced, let us make a bet. Friedrich offers an irresistible deal. If she kills Yujin and brings back his corpse, he will officially surrender the Capricorn position and serve beneath her. Her attitude changes instantly, and she cheerfully calls him her beloved senior. She eagerly accepts and insists she never treats assassination bets as jokes. Meanwhile, leaked information that Ayan is recovering in Switzerland after losing to Friedrich causes an uproar among the well-informed. A weathered middle-aged man smirks at his phone. With Ayan's overwhelming presence, hiding her cannot last. Finding her is only a matter of time, but the people who follow her are easier prey for extracting information. These hunters assume Wai Myung and his companion are weak support staff with generous salaries but little real power. Their leader approaches and threatens to throw them somewhere filthy and horrible unless they cooperate and call Ayan. But the young woman shows no fear and mocks the outdated threat. Enraged at being dismissed, the hunters launch a preemptive magical assault. Contrary to expectations, Wai Myung and his partner coordinate perfectly and shatter the encirclement in moments. Swinging her staff confidently, she jokes that their market value has just risen. She charges into the crowd and overwhelms the attackers before they can react. Watching his men get beaten, the leader realizes these supposedly weak targets are far tougher than expected. She casts an ice prison spell that freezes everyone in place. The leader urgently orders a mercenary in a red hoodie to put down his phone and finish the fight. But the mercenary suddenly realizes the targets are no longer where they were. After attacking with his gauntlet, Wai Myung uses his own body to shield the woman and suffers severe injuries. Ignoring the useless men, the mercenary Sung stares at his phone and declares that he has located Dong Ayan and will go directly to her. At the academy, Ayan begs Yujin to reopen the dimensional gate and return the baby to its mother, but he scratches his head awkwardly. He explains that preparing the gate again will take at least 3 months, making Ayan despair as her projected path to Archmage lengthens even further. Then the tiny creature unexpectedly greets them, thrilling Yujin. Hello, human friend. It says its mother told it to befriend Yujin, then criticizes Ayan's boring lifestyle and tells her to watch something fun and enjoy life. While Ayan stares at its nonsense, Yujin realizes a shocking truth. Her recent improvement came from this creature. Because it shared Ayan's neural network while developing inside her head, her memory storage and information processing improved dramatically, as if 2 brains were working together. Yujin admits he had worried he misjudged her talent, but her sudden brilliance was actually supported by this little companion. Ayan gives a calculating smile. When asked its name, the creature says its mother only called it Egg and that it needs a new name from the person who gave birth to it. Since every unhatched life is called an egg, it insists that Ayan name it immediately after emerging from her head. After thinking until dizzy, Ayan names it Jelly because it resembles a jellyfish. Yujin happily celebrates Jelly's birthday and asks whether it has any special talents that can help Ayan become an Archmage. Jelly immediately reveals Ayan's secret desire to impress her father, making her scream at it to stop exposing her thoughts. Jelly boasts that it is amazing at many things and begins flying around skillfully. I'm especially good at moving like this. Yujin watches with delight, while Ayan remains speechless at its vanity. To prove more, jelly compresses and transforms its body in bizarre ways. Yujin recognizes the fairy's characteristic that inspired runeless magic and believes it will greatly help Ayan. Then a scream erupts. Ayan turns red when jelly transforms into her father's face. She grabs it and shouts, "Who gave you permission to copy that face?" Yujin laughs uncontrollably. Jelly innocently asks whether she hates her father. Ayan snaps that she does not, but imitating him so disrespectfully is uncomfortable. Yujin becomes serious, and says Jelly may help her in unexpected ways. Before birth, Jelly only slightly enhanced memory. Now, with a clear consciousness, it can become Ayan's second brain. Yujin declares that not only science but ordinary magic and runeless magic will improve enormously. Doubling brain function will amplify perception, reasoning, and memory. Ayan remains doubtful while watching the creature wriggle on the table. She fears using this immature, rude personality as a second brain may damage her mind more than help. Yujin says Jelly is only a newborn and will become a reliable partner through experience and learning. He bends down and asks what Jelly wants most. The answer is unexpected. "I want a hamburger." Moments later, all three are at a fast food restaurant. Watching Jelly devour the food, Ayan wonders whether fairies should eat this and why it wanted a burger. Jelly says it saw a childhood memory in her mind of eating hamburgers with Yujin and feeling happy. Ayan is moved, but Jelly ruins the moment. Every child likes fast food. Do not romanticize it. Yujin tells Ayan to remain close and help Jelly develop a healthy personality. She complains that he keeps shifting all parenting responsibility onto her. Then someone behind them calls, "Dong Ayan? Is that you?" Despite her hat and glasses, she has been recognized. A man and a young woman approach excitedly, calling themselves devoted fans and praising her beauty. Ayan realizes the concealment spell on her hat is not working as well as expected. They ask about her injuries after the Friedrich battle, drawing more attention. Yujin appears behind her and proudly remarks on how famous she is. Yujin recognizes them from the cafe. Seeing their excessive enthusiasm, Ayan explains that these people are helping with her recovery, and that they came out to discuss her return to training plan. The fans understand and quickly leave, wishing her well. Then Jelly starts whining for Ayan's phone to watch YouTube. Ayan hesitates over whether to indulge her supposed backup brain with endless dopamine. Yujin says to let it watch for a while. Even if the queen sent Jelly to help Ayan, forcing it from birth to live only according to her demands would be cruel. He persuades her to let Jelly behave like a real newborn for now. Ayan sighs and hands over the phone, and Jelly cheers. Before going to the restroom, Ayan tells Yujin to supervise Jelly and stop it from watching inappropriate things that it might later reveal. Yujin promises. While washing her hands, Ayan worries that her location has been exposed. People may know only that she was injured, so her complete loss of magic might remain secret. But Choryok's students probably revealed everything. She fears enemies will come for revenge or kidnap her to extract something from her father. She feels safe beside Yujin, but going home alone is another matter. She wonders whether she should temporarily live at his house. While distracted, a stranger appears behind her and asks, "Did you wash your hands?" Outside, Yujin is helping Jelly find entertaining content and ways around a payment limit. As Jelly begs to make a gotcha pull, Ayan's phone suddenly rings. Wai Myung panics when he hears Yujin's voice and asks where he is and where Ayan has gone. When Yujin says they are eating hamburgers and she stepped into the restroom, Wai Myung screams for him to reach her immediately and never leave her alone. She warns that magical criminals are hunting Ayan. They suddenly identified her location and are already moving there. The enemies are far stronger and more dangerous than expected, especially now that Ayan cannot use magic and is alone. At that moment, a huge hand reaches for Ayan from behind. Her eyes widen as the enemy's shadow appears in the mirror. A disheveled black-haired stranger mocks her arrogance, and whispers that her inability to use magic has already been discovered. Ayan realizes her identity is exposed, and that this is no fan. Yujin is in the neighboring building, but she left her phone at the restaurant. As the stranger closes in, she wonders whether she can hold out until her teacher comes. The man tells her to cooperate, so either of them has to struggle. Ayan quickly reads his intent. He wants to kidnap her, not kill her yet. From his movements, she recognizes him as a mage but assumes he is low-ranked. A competent mage would have used binding magic or a trap instead of approaching manually. Offended that such a weak man underestimates her, Ayan suddenly screams as a feint, grabs his arm, and locks him down in a flash. She mocks his surprise and asks whether he thought she was an idiot who knew only flashy magic and could not fight. Despite his shock-absorbing magical coating, Ayan says it cannot protect his bones from direct physical force. She demands to know who sent him, but red mana suddenly erupts from his hand and a powerful counterattack hurls her away. Ayan crashes to the floor beside her shattered glasses. She realizes the man is much more dangerous than expected now that he is using real magic, and he defeats her in an instant. Blood drips onto the floor as the red-clothed man restrains her and carries her away on his back. After the warning call, Yujin runs to the restroom and freezes at the sight of a severed hand lying in the corridor. Sweat pours down his face as he realizes it belongs to Ayan. He screams her name, collapses, and punches his own head in overwhelming regret. Idiot! I'm the greatest fool alive! He blames himself for leaving her alone despite her clear fears. Crying, he apologizes again and again. Jelly floats beside him and promises to help find Ayan. Yujin nods painfully. It is not too late. He rises, radiating cold killing intent. Holding the severed hand, he studies the scene and realizes Ayan cut it off herself immediately after leaving the restroom. She sacrificed part of her body to leave him a trail. That means she is still alive and cannot be far away. He casts runeless magic to read the spatial memory. Black tentacles sink into the ground and scan every remaining trace. He sees Ayan being dragged into a black vehicle and driven away. She is alive, and he must rescue her immediately. As Yujin prepares to leave surrounded by black energy, the two fans from earlier rush toward him. Teacher Yujin, we're here. What happened to Ayan? They find him standing amid violently swirling shadow tentacles. Recognizing Wei Myung and his partner, Yujin thanks them for warning him. His face twists with anger as he confirms that Ayan has been kidnapped. He immediately follows her trail. Inside the speeding vehicle, the kidnapper reports by phone that they captured her, but the madwoman cut off her own arm. Looking at Ayan unconscious in the back seat, he urgently requests bandages, gauze, and stored blood. He curses because he promised to deliver her unharmed after hearing she could not use magic. He complains that they should at least have brought the severed arm instead of leaving it behind. Confident that jamming spray erased tracking and that she carried no phone, he still worries because only men are in the vehicle and her wound needs treatment. A companion suddenly screams. In the mirror, a gigantic black shadow chases the car. Yujin's horrifying face appears at the window as he roars. Ayan, wake up! This is not the time to sleep! He pounds on the glass, promising to save her and reattach the arm. The kidnappers activate defensive magic, but Yujin keeps shouting to keep her conscious, warning that blood loss may deprive her brain and organs of oxygen. The mercenary trembles when he sees Yujin regenerating from the severed hand. They believe they had escaped, yet he is rebuilding himself from it. Pressing his face to the window, Yujin politely asks the kidnapper to wake Ayan and tilt her slightly to the left until he finishes regenerating. Before the man can object, Yujin tears the vehicle apart. He shows no patience to people who kidnapped a child. The kidnapper feels his blood run cold when the roof vanishes. He floors the accelerator, desperately trying to reach the rendezvous. In a dark abandoned building, Ayan lies on a table with her arm crudely bandaged. The henchmen mock the powerless girl who severed her own limb to leave a trail. They laugh and ask whether her teacher is worth such sacrifice. Marion, his face covered in bandages, stops the bleeding and anesthetizes her. A subordinate asks why they cannot remove her hat, but Marion cannot break its strange magic. The men gossip that Marion normally only cuts meat but is unusually eager in this kidnapping, perhaps from personal hatred or obsessive fandom. He orders the site cleaned and a vehicle prepared, leaving no trace for Yujin to follow. Alone with Ayan, Marion says he did not intend for her to lose her arm. Her resistance was completely unlike that of other high-ranking battle mages. He points to a bound man in the corner, and reveals him as the informant. His employer overheard a few words in a bar and captured the man for questioning. Looking at the traitor begging for mercy, Marion says capturing powerless Ayan was easier than capturing him. Ayan asks whether they intend to use her life as leverage against her father or whether this is revenge. Marion smiles faintly and claims Archmage Dong Uk will not care about his daughter's life. To someone of his stature, her life and everyone else's are equally disposable in service of his ideals. He says Dong Uk will not move even one finger for her. Her disappearance will be only a tiny stain on his reputation. A powerful alliance figure wants her, and she will end in a condition too terrible to imagine. Marion admits it is not exactly revenge, but the narrow resentment of someone left behind by the new era Dong Uk created. Then he leaves Ayan alone. Confined, Ayan calmly analyzes the situation. They have not transferred her because she still has value, but their time is running out. Though barely conscious during the abduction, she is certain Yujin came after her and will eventually find a way to locate her. She despises the traitorous Fan and the kidnapper's arrogance in dismissing her bond with her father. Dong Uk is not indifferent, he simply carries a mission greater than any single person. Her eyes glow blue with anger. She wants to tear apart the mouth that dared insult her father. While frustrated by her helplessness, a familiar voice calls her name. She is stunned to see Jelly, who anxiously asks about her wounded arm. Jelly casually holds out the phone and asks whether they should watch YouTube together until Yujin arrives. Ayan stares in disbelief. Elsewhere, two hooded figures confirm that they understand their mission. On the other end, a wrinkled old man smiles with satisfaction. He values their honesty and says losing one arm is acceptable, but requests that no further physical or psychological harm be inflicted. A fat man beside him adds that they also want her hat, an item his wife has awaited for years. Marion confirms the handover will happen today. They will package and deliver her securely at the arranged time, treating a human being like merchandise. While someone else has to hold his breath just to endure his injuries, you can calmly swallow those things? In the darkness, Dong Uk narrows his eyes with calculation. So everything will end once this job is finished, right? A mysterious voice offers him an official position overseas if he is willing to change his attitude. But harsh accusations suddenly echo through his mind. Everything is his fault. He is the one who ruined his daughter's life. Back in the cell, Ayan is startled to see Jelly casually scrolling on a phone. Wait a moment. I just saved a rather funny video. Ayan urgently asks why Jelly is here and where Uncle Yujin has gone. Jelly explains that she jumped down as soon as Yujin caught up with the moving vehicles so she could protect Ayan. Ayan sighs with relief. Everyone is moving in the right direction to find her. She may actually survive this. Gaining hope, she asks whether her uncle left any message. Jelly proudly shows her the phone screen. He said he would follow immediately, so we should stay right here. A new message arrives and draws both their attention. Ayan tells herself that Uncle Yujin is still alive. Although she knows things should be fine, she cannot help worrying about where her absent-minded uncle may have wandered. Seeing the trembling Fan who betrayed her, Jelly kindly holds out the phone. Look at this. The terrified man stares at the tiny creature and stammers, asking what kind of monster is standing beside Ayan. Jelly cheerfully introduces herself as Jelly, a name personally given to her by Ayan. The man assumes this is a rare spirit art that Ayan secretly cast to escape. Ayan calmly invites him to watch YouTube with them until rescue arrives, ignoring his weak complaint that the phone originally belonged to him. Ayan studies the screen, still wondering whether everything will truly be alright. Looking at her hands locked in glowing cuffs, Jelly asks curiously whether they are inconvenient. Park Dong-dae naively explains that inconvenience is the entire point, because they stop her from escaping. Jelly wonders whether they are some new fashion trend. In reality, they are specialized handcuffs designed to seal mana, worth tens of millions of won and usually owned only by government agencies. Dong-dae boasts that without them, he could use magic to defeat the criminals and escape instantly. Ayan only gives him a deeply skeptical look. Does he truly believe that? She admits that the kidnapper Marion's magic technique is precise and formidable, completely unlike the mediocre combat sense of the man sitting before her. By Ayan's standards, Dong-dae is far weaker than the opponents she usually faces. A dry crack suddenly sounds. Jelly casually touches the expensive cuffs and snaps them apart. Done! They're open. Dongdae stares in disbelief because the restraints should be impossible to release without using the correct mana circuit to undo the seal. Brute force should instantly burn every mana channel in the prisoner's wrists. Ayan realizes with astonishment that Jelly has just performed a form of magic without relying on internal mana. Dongdae cheers. Jelly, you're amazing! Then he begins whining again because the tendons in his legs were cut, leaving him unable to move. The kidnappers were not satisfied with binding his hands. They disabled his legs as well. Ayan sighs and asks his name. The young man eagerly introduces himself as Park Dongdae, 21 years old, and tells her to speak casually with him. Ayan replies coldly, "There is no need to become that comfortable." She asks whether he saw teacher Yujin yesterday. The moment Dongdae hears the mage's name, he screams in horror as he remembers that grotesque face. Annoyed, Ayan orders him to help her as repayment for carelessly revealing her condition and causing her injuries. Dongdae sobs in fear and promises to do anything she commands. Outside the building, Yujin arrives with Wai Myung and their companion. The situation is urgent, and the guards are already feeling threatened. Wai Myung nervously suggests leaving everything to Yujin to ensure success. Wearing his familiar terrifying smile, Yujin calmly approaches the guards. "Excuse me, everyone. We're looking for someone." The enemy battle mages recoil and shout that the tall freak must not enter the restricted area. Ignoring their warning, Yujin keeps advancing. A female battle mage prepares to attack, but the pressure radiating from him immediately terrifies her. Yujin calmly reasons that ordinary captives are usually held underground, while important guests are personally managed by the boss on the third floor. Terrified by his appearance, the female mage trembles and gives directions. Go straight inside, and 3 unfinished buildings will appear on the right. The boss's room is on the third floor of the middle building. She hurriedly insists that she is only a guard and knows nothing more. Wai Myung and his companion marvel that persuasion was so easy, though standing beside Yujin feels deeply unsettling. Yujin crouches and smiles grotesquely. "All right. Thank you for explaining so carefully." Yujin leans close to the guards and asks in an unnerving voice, "By the way, among the people doing bad things here with you, is there anyone named Marion?" Then he pauses, his deep black eyes turning thoughtful. "No. Saving Ayan is the top priority." Seeing him prepared to move, Wai Myung anxiously stops him. "What are you planning, Sir Yujin? If we attack their leaders first, they may use Ayan as a hostage." Yujin agrees and walks forward decisively. "Exactly. That is why I will search for where Ayan may be imprisoned." They must enter quickly. As for the useless pawns outside, he dismisses them and tells everyone to go home. Meanwhile, in a restroom, the kidnapper Marion plunges his face into cold water to regain some clarity. He stares into the mirror, tormented. "What am I doing? None of this will restore what I lost." Anger and inferiority surge within him. He cannot take revenge on the Archmage himself, and although he could not touch even a strand of his daughter's hair before, he completely lost control the moment he learned she could no longer use magic. Marion bitterly faces the truth. The more his hatred for Dong Uk grows, the more it proves that his failure to become special was never the fault of the era, but of his own mediocrity and pathetic inferiority complex. Memories of the past return. Even before this hateful age began, if he had never seen the girl's sparkling eyes when she watched him cast magic, as though admiring the brightest jewel in the world, perhaps he would not have lived so foolishly. While Marion sinks into those negative thoughts, Ayan suddenly appears behind him. "Did you wash your hands properly before coming out?" He jumps in terror and spins around, launching a blazing red spell. Ayan dodges with incredible speed and charges straight into close combat. She is no longer sitting helplessly and waiting to die. This time, she attacks first. Marion is stunned when his attack is deflected with ease. How did she knock it away? Was that magic? Ayan looks down at her arm, now blazing with blue electricity. Blood still drips from it, but determination burns in her eyes. "Well, this really does work." Marion trembles in disbelief. Impossible. Completely impossible. Does she no longer need to hide it, even after losing an arm? Ayan coldly reads every thought on his face. "Why would I hide it if I can use it?" She raises her blood-soaked hand in challenge. I am not hiding anything. Look at all this blood. Can't you see how weak this defense is? An arrogant smile appears on her lips. More precisely, I can use magic again. My condition is poor, so releasing a single shockwave is currently my limit. Ayan realizes that this basic spell can only reach that level. Disappointed, she wonders whether there is anything else. At the very least, she needs some kind of defensive magic. Looking at the confused Jelly, Ayan explains that yesterday's incident exhausted their energy, and they have no prepared material settings, so they cannot immediately construct more complex second-tier spells. Seeing Ayan discouraged because she expected too much from her new power, Jelly encourages her. The process is too complicated for Ayan to complete quickly alone, so she should use her intelligence while Jelly handles the difficult simulation work. Trust me with that part and begin, Ayan orders decisively. She tells Jelly to spread evenly through the blood vessels all the way to her hands, heart, and brain. Jelly immediately obeys and begins entering her body. Violent pain crashes through Ayan, forcing her to grit her teeth. Jelly reassures her that this is only the body's natural reaction, not true damage. On the boundary between tearing apart and weaving consciousness back together, Ayan tells herself she must succeed because she is the daughter of the greatest Archmage in the world. Suddenly, Ayan laughs with excitement. Heh! Jelly, you really are the best! A brilliant magic circle appears in her hand, proving that she can reconstruct a magic circuit through sheer will. Ayan feels overwhelming happiness, a sensation she has not experienced since she was 8 years old. The feeling of controlling herself and creating magic is wonderful. Seeing the girl's frightening transformation, Park Dong-dae can only sit trembling on the floor. When Dong-dae suggests waiting for Yujin because the situation is dangerous, Ayan coldly states that she is now Uncle Yujin's student. If a student only sits before every lesson and waits for the teacher to spoon-feed everything, her skills will never improve. In Ayan's view, a true student must prepare thoroughly before class begins. She rises, the magic circle in her hand blazing with power, ready to turn the hunt against her captors. Marion is stunned to realize how careless he was in failing to anticipate his opponent's backup plan. He bitterly insists that his original goal was only to kidnap the Archmage's daughter as a hostage, and that he never intended to harm her. Ayan dismisses the excuse and declares that her father has nothing to do with this. She states coldly that the enemy before her brought disaster upon himself by failing to understand his limits. Blue magical power erupts as she declares, "The mage you have been facing from the beginning until now is Dong Ayan." She concludes that only she and Dong-dae remain as victims in the building because the gang's battle mages are either away on missions or guarding the entrance. Because they arrogantly underestimated 2 people without mana, the kidnappers left only 1 fool to guard the cell, and Ayan easily knocked him out with weak magic. Seeing Dong-dae anxiously wanting to help, she firmly orders him to hide because his legs cannot move. Fighting would be even harder for him than for someone missing an arm. Watching Ayan enter a suffocatingly intense battle, Dong-dae can only admit that even with healthy legs, he would be useless in a fight taking place on an entirely different level. Marion grits his teeth in shock that Ayan can use magic again. Although she is still far below her former strength, how can she recover magic while her body is injured? He realizes she is buying time with defensive barrier spells, but their density is insufficient to fully block his attacks. Marion believes redirecting his attacks is already the absolute limit of Ayan's ability. Even so, allowing her to close the distance is extremely dangerous. As he tries to create space before she can reach him, Ayan charges directly forward. Marion panics and blocks as she closes in with a confident smile. "I told you I was fairly agile too, didn't I?" A powerful burst erupts from Ayan's hand and strikes the enemy directly, leaving him able only to cry out in pain. Magical lightning rains down repeatedly, forcing Marion completely onto the defensive. He realizes too late that Ayan trapped him when she suddenly releases a powerful shockwave directly into his body. Damn it! A shockwave? Was she hiding it deliberately? This time he is truly in trouble. Ayan judges that the situation remains under control. Although her spells are low-level and inefficient, victory is still within reach. Her greatest advantage is that she can now use magic freely without worrying about pressure on her heart, allowing her to steadily accumulate damage. Seeing that her opponent is focused entirely on attacking and neglecting defense, Ayan moves closer to deliver the finishing blow. At that moment, jelly suddenly emerges from her head. Dong Ayan, I'm dizzy. We've moved around too much. Ayan freezes. What? Marion cannot believe the tiny spirit has such a limit. Jelly admits this is her first time doing anything like this, so she did not know. The constant complex movements are making her nauseous enough to vomit the hamburger she ate earlier. In the middle of a deadly battle, Jelly is suffering motion sickness, leaving their survival uncertain. Ayan grits her teeth and orders Jelly to swallow it back down. She must endure a little longer. Ayan keeps praising her as the greatest in the world, urging her to hold on for one final attempt. Marion commits everything to a decisive attack. A blazing red magic circle forms as he fires deadly energy straight at the girl. Ayan refuses to retreat and uses a magical shield to force her way into close combat. But the barrier is pierced instantly, and Marion uses the opening to send her flying. Ayan crashes hard onto the floor, yet her will remains unbroken. I'm still alright. I can continue. I can still move. She tries to rise, but her body is already trembling from exhaustion. Continuing the battle may now be impossible. Marion stands before her, his own breathing heavy after the confrontation. He declares coldly, "This ends here." Looking at the barely conscious Ayan, Marion admits that he has witnessed just how extraordinary she is, accomplishing so much with only a few basic spells. He explains that his own magic causes injuries too easily, making restraint difficult. Her stubborn resistance only creates trouble because his employer ordered him not to leave a scratch on the merchandise. Seeing Ayan dizzy from blood loss, Marion tells her to lie still and sleep while he retrieves medicine and a coagulant. Ayan still refuses to submit. She mocks his ridiculous excuses and insists he is the one struggling. "I see absolutely no chance of losing, so stop pretending you're showing mercy." Even with her body almost exhausted, she keeps fighting with words when she can no longer fight with fists. Covered in wounds, Ayan looks directly at Marion and sneers. "A few elementary spells were more than enough. Did you never consider that I attacked because I knew I would win?" From the precise operation of his magic, she identifies him as an old-generation mage unable to keep pace with the modern methods compiled by her father. Ayan mercilessly presses on his deepest wound. He is a mage clinging to obsolete forms. He calls himself a quitter, and even his magic carries the exact style of one. Her words drag Marion into a haunting memory of Archmage Dong Uk. Back then, Ayan's father had gripped his hand and exclaimed in amazement, "This is truly excellent. I cannot believe a mage still uses this traditional method of magical operation." Dong Uk praised the unique secrets inherited from Marion's generation, but the truth that followed was bitter. Although the magic was created for combat, it was so difficult to use that Marion employed it only for butchering meat. He could find no meaningful purpose for it. Dong Uk once tasted a meal he prepared and praised the precise cutting technique that no machine could reproduce, saying he could sense magical delicacy in every fiber and flavor. He hoped this stagnant art would find a new role in food preparation rather than warfare. But behind the polite praise lay humiliating contempt. Dong Uk concluded that Marion was unsuited for battle and should accept a life as a butcher. Back in the present, Marion grinds his teeth at Ayan's mockery. Like father, like daughter. Rage explodes. He roars that she inherited her father's infuriating talent for provoking people with words. Unable to endure the insults, he stops holding back and smashes Ayan painfully to the floor. Marion says he intended to treat her gently because she would soon be sold, but he has changed his mind. "Like a true quitter, I will pour all my hatred for your father into you," he says as she writhes helplessly. Killing intent burns in his eyes. "Didn't you say you attacked because you knew you would win? Then resist while I tear you apart." Dark red energy gathers around his hands. He bitterly regrets cutting her leg too early, because it would have been more satisfying to split her body while she was still standing. "I will finish you with the very outdated method you despise." His sentence echoes through the darkness as he begins chanting a complex two-circle spell. "Crimson fracture, spread with me as your center." Divide into 6 branches like migrating birds crossing clouds on the breath of dying light, silently separating invisible boundaries. But while he is still forming the spell, Jelly quickly devours the mana, leaving him utterly bewildered. Ayan smiles with satisfaction. She admits she had been waiting for him to use a genuine technique so she could observe it carefully. Watching Jelly squirm, Ayan says this trajectory-based cutting magic is far more efficient than any magical blades she has used. She apologizes because calling him outdated was only provocation, explaining that her father's standardized methods were designed mainly for newer generation mages. Ayan immediately begins the chant with tremendous authority. As twilight closes its wings, crimson fracture, spread with me as your center. Divide into 6 paths like migrating birds touching every layer of the sky. With the breath of fading light, silently divide the nameless boundaries. As the incantation ends, a brilliant 2-circle composite spell activates in her hand. She has taken his chant and reconstructed it to suit her own body. Because she is missing one hand, Ayan simplifies the magical structure for her condition. Without even hearing the end of his original spell, she casually names the attack Light Severance. A colossal cross-shaped beam tears through space and slices apart the building before Marion's horrified eyes. A man's scream echoes from behind after the attack cuts him as well. He curses Marion for ignoring his calls and causing him to be wounded at the scene. Elsewhere, Yujin appears with his familiar grotesque smile. He calmly studies the deep slash in the wall and notes that the attack veered downward. He judges that although the wide-area strike is easy to evade, its cutting force and speed are exceptional for the mana consumed. A direct hit would be like the scythe of death against one's neck. Meanwhile, Ayan collapses from exhaustion. She feels relieved that she accurately identified Dong Day's location and avoided accidentally injuring an innocent person. Looking at Marion collapsed in a pool of blood, she coldly declares the debt settled. Instead of tearing apart his filthy mouth as originally planned, she used his own magic to end the battle decisively. How frightening! She mocks as he continues glaring at her with hatred despite defeat. Jelly suddenly emerges from Ayan's body and vomits repeatedly. She calls Ayan a liar for promising to use only one final attack. Although Ayan has reached her limit, lost a great deal of blood, and suffered worsening injuries, she still begs Jelly to help her cast one more gentle finishing blow. Ayan bitterly realizes that channeling magic through Jelly places far greater strain on the brain than expected, and provoking the enemy so aggressively was probably unwise. Yet she smiles with satisfaction through the exhaustion. She does not regret giving everything to this battle. She has regained magic even through pain, and considers the price worthwhile. It is only fair that effort and reward come together. As her consciousness fades, Yujin's enormous pale hand suddenly reaches from the darkness and grips the head of the barely breathing Marion. Ayan closes her eyes in complete relief, knowing Yujin will thoroughly handle everything that remains. 30 years ago? Cecilia takes a sip of coffee and thoughtfully repeats the question. She dislikes being treated like a living fossil by her subordinate merely because she is nearly 40. Cecilia explains that the world changed so quickly after Archmage Dong UK appeared that children born afterward could never understand the true brutality through a few sanitized history book pages. The records were intentionally brief to spare later generations psychological trauma. The privileged people who once lived safely in shelters may not value Dong UK, but to the rest of the world, he was the greatest savior. Before the magical era, reality was a living hell. Amid ruins and darkness, people desperately fought over every scrap needed to survive. In that cruelty, a hooded stranger appeared to stop 2 adults from stealing food from a starving child. The stranger mocked their cowardice in surviving by exploiting the weakest, even though supply vehicles still arrived periodically from safe cities. When one man tried to attack with a brick, a brilliant red line suddenly tore through space. The brick was split in an instant. The hooded figure calmly walked away, thinking that in a ruined place deprived of knowledge, rumors about magic would never spread far. That was why using it to save an innocent child was acceptable. Approaching the child barely alive on the ground, the stranger realized the true situation was far worse than anything she had heard. She removed her hood, revealing a young woman with sorrowful eyes, and introduced herself as Marion, a future battle mage traveling through the human world for training. But that belonged to the distant past. In the present, Marion is only a miserable man whose face is being crushed by Yujin's gigantic hand amid the ruins. Ayan struggles upright among the debris, breathing heavily but visibly relieved. I did not intend for things to end like this, but you arrived at exactly the right time. Seeing Yujin emerge from the darkness, she says softly, "Thank you for coming to save me, Teacher Yujin." The mage remains completely silent, his deep black eyes pressing heavily upon his wounded student. He aches with guilt for failing to protect her. Ayan speaks carefully. "You must have rushed here and gone through a great deal. I'm sorry, but could you help repair this?" Yujin answers in a low voice, clearly struggling with his own mind. "My thoughts are becoming unclear." "Sit still." He takes her severed arm and prepares to perform the impossible. Ayan is surprised that he also brought the detached limb. "You carried my arm too? I'm truly sorry, but could you repair my leg as well? I tried my best not to suffer any more injuries." Yujin places a hand on her and activates runeless magic with an effect like reversing time. Ayan gasps as every wound disappears instantly. "Wow! Teacher Yujin's runeless magic truly is different. You didn't only heal the severed parts, you erased every other injury too." Jelly cheerfully joins the teasing. "I'm not Yujin, you know." The little creature is surprisingly eager to join the conversation. Ayan happily feels vitality flooding back. "It feels as though I've returned to the state before Jelly was removed from my head." But Yujin suddenly lowers his head in despair, worrying her. "Teacher, are you unwell? Why are you making that expression again?" Yujin chokes on guilt. "I'm sorry. You were forced to endure fear and uncertainty all this time. I was careless and indifferent. I boasted that you had nothing to worry about, yet I never established any real protection for a situation like this. I said I would be your teacher. I promised, and still allowed this to happen." Yujin sinks deeper into self-blame, murmuring that he is unqualified. Ayan refuses to let him drown in despair and shouts, "Teacher Yujin! Uncle Yujin!" She firmly grabs him and yells, "Wake up! You have neither the time nor the right to torture yourself over this. You are not my bodyguard. You are my teacher. A teacher's job is to help students stand on their own feet, fill their weaknesses, and encourage them when they achieve something." After shouting directly into her respected teacher's face, Ayan smiles brightly, her eyes shining with trust. "Do you know something? What happened today made me trust your training program more than ever. Yesterday, you sent me to the fairy world and introduced me to Jelly. Because of that, I did not waste the time before you arrived." "Stop thinking so gloomily," Ayan snaps. She demands that Yujin train her strictly from now on so she can overcome every crisis by herself. Excited, she wants to show him the results immediately because she believes he will be amazed by her progress. Ayan remembers how she always wanted Uncle Yujin to be the second person after her father to witness her magic. She calls Jelly proudly in attempts to first her spell. But both teacher and student freeze when nothing happens except Jelly's confused stare. Where did the spells from earlier go? Ayan urgently asks why there is no connection to her body. She quickly realizes that Yujin's restorative runeless magic returned her body to an earlier state. Yujin praises his student's intelligence and explains the scanning technique. It can restore an object to the perfect state recorded at the moment of scanning, regardless of later damage. Ayan turns pale when she realizes she must endure the painful connection process with Jelly from the beginning again. Embarrassed, she says she will show him another time. Ayan mentions that Park Dong-dae's leg tendons need treatment, but Yujin suddenly stops and walks toward Marion, who lies barely alive. Ayan mocks Marion as a failure consumed by hatred for her father and a human trafficker who planned to sell her. He is a villain who nearly killed her. Seeing Yujin prepare to heal him, she complains that her teacher is far too soft-hearted for helping the man who cut off her limbs without remorse. Marion trembles in terror and demands to know what the mage plans to do to his body. Yujin tells him to remain still because treatment without previously scanned data requires far more time and concentration. He studies Marion's face and says he is certain he is not mistaken. He would recognize that face even after so many years. In a low voice, Yujin recalls their unpleasant reunion and asks whether Marion remembers him. He mentions the can of tuna from 30 years ago, a memory he has never forgotten. The image returns of a thin young Yujin offering the can. Yujin was the child Marion saved from a man trying to smash his head with a brick. The old memory even includes Marion joking that his spell was not designed to open cans, but the pull tab had broken, leaving no alternative. 30 years earlier, Marion muttered while using magic and looked at the ragged, starving child before him. He could only sigh at a world where a life might be taken over a cheap can of tuna. The cruelty stunned him, and he wondered where the government had gone. Watching the starving child devour the food, Marion made a decision. Everything had to change. He believed mages had a responsibility to guide humanity with their power instead of watching helpless children live in despair every moment. That was the true meaning magic should bring to the world. Somehow, survive a little longer, Marion encouraged the child before leaving. He promised that this hell would soon end once magic officially entered the light, and warned the boy to keep their meeting secret. That child was Yujin, brightly waving goodbye. In the present, the mage grips the kidnapper's hand and asks in a deep voice, "Do you remember now, Mr. Marion? Because of your kindness and promise that day, I survived and made it this far." Marion sweats beneath his bandages in disbelief. "What nonsense are you saying? That child became this monster?" Marion wonders whether Ayan used memory-reading magic, then bitterly realizes that he himself replayed those memories endlessly for years. Yujin calmly keeps holding his hand. "Whatever you are doing now, the truth that you once saved my life does not change." He sincerely thanks Marion because that can of tuna allowed him to survive long enough to meet his master, and gave Ayan a chance to dream of a new life. Yujin does not hate him. He has continued searching for his benefactor. During the tense atmosphere, Ayan suddenly looks at her phone and mutters in confusion about a message from Wai Myung mentioning a spending limit. Looking into Marion's trembling eyes, Yujin says, "I cannot know what suffering led you down this terrible road. But this time I will help you, and I promise one thing. Turn yourself in." Yujin grips his hand and promises to do everything possible to help him begin an honest new life. Marion lowers his head, overcome with emotion, and accepts. "All right. I will surrender." Elsewhere in the building, the female assistant excitedly reports by phone. "Former director, thank goodness. Have you met Teacher Yujin? A gigantic cutting spell came from nowhere. Wai Myung and I were almost split in half." She confirms that Yujin and the team entered the building earlier to rescue Dong Ayan. Wai Myung is also checking information and concludes that the criminal organization is enormous, recommending coordinated searches for additional kidnapped victims. At the same time, aboard a private jet flying above the clouds, a powerful shadow angrily scrolls through his phone. He curses his subordinates as useless idiots who generate no profit and have sent countless support requests for months. Do they think this is a nursery? Searching for whoever is destroying his operations, he freezes at the image on screen. Damn it. Him again. He cannot understand how Yujin keeps locating the organization's branches so accurately. "Your snoring is even louder, idiot!" The shadow mocks the woman sprawled across a seat. He reminds her that they are borrowing this jet only because she angered Sari, so this is no time to be lazy. Showing the emergency damage report and Yujin's image, he asks whether this is the man causing them so much trouble. "The one our master placed a wager on." The red-haired, horned woman lazily opens her eyes with an indifferent expression. The shadow says coldly, "We just found his location." Suddenly excited, Capricorn sits up and demands, "You found him? Where is he?" The furry subordinate tells her to be patient because the journey is still long. He complains that the useless branch has failed to pay fees and now shamelessly demands help. They should send someone to erase the site before evidence leaks. Capricorn immediately snatches the phone. "Then leave it to me. Give me that. Where is the share button?" Once she obtains the coordinates, she happily prepares to act, stunning the subordinate. Why is she in such a hurry? Would waiting until the plane lands really be too late? He panics when he sees her throw on a coat and understands her insane intention. Capricorn smirks with excitement. "I'm awake now and bored. I think I'll warm up before meeting him. I'll take responsibility for flattening the place." Ignoring her companion's demand to wait until landing and send people to confirm the coordinates, she declares decisively, I'm going ahead. She leaped straight from the aircraft amid the subordinates' screams, exiting the plane as casually as someone stepping from a car. Falling through the clouds, Capricorn grins with anticipation. I cannot wait. Monster who frightened our old man out of his courage, just how strong are you? Meanwhile, kidnapped victims in a dark basement hold their breath and listen to the chaos outside. When the noise stops, they exchange uncertain looks in the suffocating atmosphere. Is this truly a rescue? I hear footsteps coming closer. Hope begins rising. A click sounds, and the iron door opens. They erupt with joy. It opened before inspection time. This must truly be a rescue team. They cry at the thought of seeing sunlight again and returning to their families. But the person at the door is Ayin, with jelly sleeping on her hat. Everyone is gathered here? They imprisoned this many people. What vermin! Recognizing the famous Mage, the victims cheer through tears. Mage Dong Ayin! She smiles reassuringly. It's all right. I came to save you. They rejoice at the arrival of their savior, feeling that every effort to survive was worthwhile. Looking over the wreckage, Yujin remarks softly, everyone appears to be in better condition than before. Ayin wonders what he means by before. Suddenly, desperate screams erupt. Mage, watch behind you! The leader is frozen there in an extremely miserable condition. The leader screams in agony when he realizes his backside has been split open. He fears Ayin's people will not only take her away but free every slave, and regrets failing to alert headquarters sooner. Then he freezes as the wound begins healing on its own. Yujin is carefully treating him from behind. Sorry. Endure it a little longer. I'm healing you. Nearby, Ayin explains everything to her two teammates. Although they were nearly cut in half by her previous attack, the female assistant cheerfully congratulates Ayin for regaining magic with Jelly's help. Ayin bows apologetically and sighs in relief that her slash did not hit anyone. Yujin exhales in relief. Finished? He asks gently. Does your backside feel better now? The badly deformed man screams in despair and begs to be killed rather than forced to live in such a grotesque state. Ayin looks down coldly and says this is a fitting price for trash who traffics people and enslaves victims. She demands to know who intended to buy her, but Marion stubbornly remains silent. Ayin threatens to leave him like this for life, only for Yujin to clarify that the spell will wear off tomorrow. Yujin tells Ayin to leave him to the police. Afterward, he will personally search the man's mind to identify the mastermind. Marion secretly hopes the nurse who disappeared earlier has already reported to headquarters and summoned help. But Yujin destroys that hope by proposing cooperation to eliminate every threat to Ayin. He refuses to let her face danger like this again and intends to locate the organization's lair and settle the matter. Realizing the situation cannot be reversed, Marion reveals that he is only a newly hired mercenary and does not know many details. However, he overheard a call saying the transaction would take place today. He urges them to move quickly if they want the truth. Watching this blatant betrayal, another henchman can only curse him through clenched teeth. Yujin happily thanks him and promises to report his cooperation to Inspector Kim Sung-hoon so his sentence may be reduced. He takes out his phone to call the inspector. Ayin stretches wearily. The last 2 days were complete chaos, but worthwhile because she now understands Jelly's abilities and has found the shortest path back toward becoming an Archmage. Looking at Yujin's back, Ayin silently apologizes for ever doubting him. Teacher Yujin can be slow, foolish, and old-fashioned, but she can feel the devotion he puts into training her. Ayin smiles brightly and resolves to trust this teacher from now on, and stops screaming directly into his face. Outside, a police vehicle speeds along the road. Inspector Kim is struggling with the legal complications. Although Ayin has been rescued safely, everything is becoming more complex. Sitting in the police car, Kim Sung-hoon tells Yujin by phone that even following proper procedure will make identifying the buyer extremely difficult. Large cases like this often collide with walls of power at higher levels. He advises Yujin that if he feels uneasy, it may be best to pretend he never heard anything, even though that will not feel right. At that moment, high in the sky, the red-haired Capricorn dives downward like lightning at terrifying speed. Frowning at her phone, she wonders why the target is still nowhere in sight when GPS says she is extremely close. Looking down at the shabby unfinished buildings, Capricorn smirks. People involved in shady business never choose respectable places to hide. Someone like Yujin belongs in a ruin like this. Her heart races when she finds the target, and she begins considering the most dramatic possible entrance. Inside the building, Yujin ends the call and tells everyone to prepare to move outside for police custody. As Ayan looks at the ceiling and wonders whether rain is coming, a blazing red shadow tears through space and crashes directly onto Yujin's position. A catastrophic explosion sends smoke, dust, and bricks flying everywhere. Capricorn stands amid the ruins, red eyes fixed on the black entity slowly emerging before her. This is the person old Friedrich spoke of with such caution. As the victims are hurled away by the shockwave, Capricorn growls. There can be no mistake. You are the one, aren't you? The one our old man owes a favor. Another horrific impact makes the entire area collapse into white smoke, swallowing everyone as though no one could possibly escape. Among the shattered bricks, Ayan survives only because her teammates' ice prison defense formed around her moments before disaster. Trapped inside the freezing block and unable to escape immediately, she still sighs with relief that she survived the devastating attack. As Ayan crawls from the broken ice, her teammates anxiously ask about her condition. She wipes dust from her face and firmly confirms that she is fine, though still shaken by the tremendous power that swept through the area. From behind cover, she realizes Yujin used his own body to shield everyone from the debris and shockwave. She wonders whether teacher Yujin blocked all that wreckage with his knees. Looking into the dense dust, Ayan worries whether he is safe outside. But given the scale of destruction, she understands that rushing out with her team would not help. She decides to leave the battle to Yujin and silently prays for him. High above, the red-haired Capricorn stands proudly atop the ruins. She frowns slightly, sensing that something strange blocked her surprise kick. Looking down at the writhing black mass, she marvels at the magic and mad atmosphere radiating from it. To her, this is the most impressive-looking entity she has ever seen, and she hopes the coming battle will be entertaining. Smiling provocatively, she says, I heard everything. You're the one who tore off Uncle Gamora's arm and ripped out his heart, aren't you? From the darkness, Yujin answers in surprise. Me? That is terribly unfair. He actually cut them off himself. Studying her, he notices the unusual ears, horns, and tail. A demon. An uninvited female demon. Yujin wonders whether Friedrich sent her for revenge. She introduces herself proudly. I am Tio. I heard you forced the strongest mage to flee with his tail between his legs, so I came here with very high expectations. Tio burns with enthusiasm for a proper battle between powerful opponents. Yujin, however, looks exhausted. Sorry. I'm busy and have no time to play. He realizes his condition is terrible after repeatedly using spatial tracking and healing severe injuries. He has overworked all day and is approaching his limit. As his body begins losing control, Yujin warns Tio that police will arrive soon and advises her to surrender with the other criminals. His body distorts horrifyingly, revealing a pale screaming entity inside the darkness. During the tension, Ayan points curiously at a strange opening in Yujin's neck that sometimes releases smoke whenever he fights Friedrich or opens a dimensional gate. Yujin casually explains that it is simply a cooling system or exhaust vent that opens whenever he creates artificial mana to use conventional spells or operates runeless magic for long periods. As he gradually unlocks restricted brain functions, the process produces combustion byproducts that must escape through that opening. Ayan is horrified and asks why he must deliberately limit his own brain. Yujin reveals a haunting truth. When calculation speed, depth of thought, and knowledge rise too high, thoughts that should never exist begin appearing in his mind. If he loses control, his body may commit unimaginable acts. Amid the ruins, the mage suddenly laughs madly, the sound grotesque and lonely. He questions the demon woman for recklessly destroying everything on her way here and placing unrelated people in danger. Tio thinks for a moment, then casually admits she may have crushed someone's head while landing. Scratching her head, she wonders why the scene is so clean, with no blood or fragments, and innocently asks whether the unfortunate victim was someone Yujin knew. Seeing her kill without hesitation or guilt, Yujin concludes that she is every bit as dangerous as Friedrich. Tio grins excitedly and declares that she will not dodge Yujin's first attack as compensation for the accident. Yujin immediately casts a first-tier composite spell called Spiritual Binding Armor, surrounding Tio with brilliant blue energy. She stands still and takes it, but quickly realizes this is not a crushing attack. It is a restraint designed to reduce her power and speed as much as possible. Her assumption that she is unquestionably the strongest suddenly feels dangerous. Tio is amazed by Yujin's speed and precision. Despite her innate magical resistance, she cannot believe he pierced her defenses so easily. Is this truly only a harmless binding spell? She suspects that if he had struck slightly harder, she would not even have had time to recognize it as an attack. Yujin knows this is no moment to relax. Recognizing the demon race's sharp combat instincts, he decides against ancient rune spells or elemental transformation because they consume too much energy. Instead, Yujin focuses on pure shape transformation to end the fight as quickly as possible. He reminds her to keep her promise. Runeless magic, reaction spring. Yujin suddenly transforms into a colossal mass of darkness and launches forward like an arrow tearing through space. Tio recoils in shock. He's coming. He's here. Her red eyes blaze with excitement as overwhelming pressure approaches. This sensation is completely different from her previous opponents, a threat comparable to the mightiest entities she has ever faced. Finally, an opponent worthy of her. The weaklings before him could not even scratch her. A gigantic dark hand reaches forward, carrying a threat unlike anything Tio has experienced. She is astonished that he intends to strike barehanded without using any apparent magic. At near sonic speed, Yujin can crush ordinary defenses through physical force alone. Although she promised to remain still for one attack, Tio plans to absorb it with her body and counter immediately. But the instant that monstrous hand draws near, Tio's survival instincts scream at an inexplicable danger. A tremendous explosion erupts at her position, shattering the ground. As the dust clears, Tio stands trembling and drenched in sweat. That was frightening. All 5 of my senses were screaming. Yujin lies flattened on the ground and complains resentfully. You said you wouldn't dodge. Liar. Tio realizes that if she had not evaded at the last moment, everything would have ended there. She cannot believe a monster like Yujin possesses magic of such depth. Hearing him complain that his feelings are hurt, she admits Friedrich was not senile when he warned her about this man. She tries to save face by claiming her hair touched the attack, then speaks seriously. I'm joking. You're far too dangerous for me to keep that promise. She broke her word and still speaks arrogantly without shame. Tio's gaze sharpens. The probing phase is over, and she will no longer be careless. Inside the rubble, Ayan and her assistants are shocked by the name Zodiac. Ayan wonders whether it was once the name of the Demon King's royal guard, but the truth is even more terrifying. It is a newly risen criminal organization with enormous influence, led by Friedrich Gamora, who personally killed the Demon King and gave the name Zodiac to his 12 principal subordinates. The defeated criminal reveals that one major Zodiac member operates illegal magical weapon factories across the world. Among the 12 leaders, Tio is the only one whose face and identity are public. She serves as a field captain who destroys every organization opposing Friedrich. Ayan is disturbed that someone as dangerous as Tio serves Gamora. Though he is an arrogant villain, talented people continue gathering beneath him. Tio's record is horrifying, including killing 2 mystic-rank battle mages from the Alliance. She is also called the Dragon Slayer after killing an adult dragon alone, earning a place on the blacklist and an enormous bounty. Ayan admits she once intended to hunt her before losing her mana, making Wei Myung panic at her recklessness. Although Ayan believes teacher Yujin can subdue the enemy, a massive shock suddenly overturns the entire barrier. The ground shakes violently. Ayan orders everyone to activate defensive magic immediately because the battle outside is already escaping control. Tio dives like red lightning, destroying everything in her path. Yujin struggles among the wreckage and shouts for her to wait, while he moves the innocent people from danger. If this continues, they have no chance of surviving. Tio does not care and unleashes another terrifying explosion of magical power. Grinding her teeth in fury, Tio declares that she cannot accept this reality. She crushes the ground beneath her feet and attacks with mad determination. Yujin is stunned that her speed has risen beyond what ordinary eyes can follow. Inside Tio's mind, her combat instincts surge more powerfully than ever. She has never needed tactics or formal technique because her body and sharp intuition always guided her to victory. The stronger the enemy and the more dangerous the situation, the sharper her predatory instinct became, finding openings and killing opponents. Even in battles with seemingly no chance of victory, Tio fought without regret. Because of this, she had never lost. But for the first time, she encounters a terrifying obstruction. Yujin's black threads surround and bind her, making her scream in helpless rage because nothing has ever restrained her will to fight. My vision narrowed, and my judgment grew unclear. Friedrich recalls his battle with Yujin. He admits he was completely subdued by the former disciple's limitless regeneration and grotesque matter transformation. Sitting opposite Sari, Friedrich explains that for a demon with senses as sharp as Tio's, the instincts that were once her greatest advantage become a burden against an entity beyond logic. Sari asks whether he is sending Tio to her death, especially when the organization is severely short on manpower and depends heavily on her combat strength. Friedrich smiles mysteriously. No. She will not die. Probably. He believes this battle will teach Tio her true place, or push her to the brink until she breaks through her limits. Besides, he wants her to learn an expensive lesson for disrespecting him. Back on the battlefield, Tio stands among the rubble with trembling legs. She realizes bitterly that her own survival instincts have betrayed her. The instincts that once helped her enjoy thrilling battles now scream at her to flee from Yujin's pressure. Tio feels humiliated that the body and senses she trusted more than magic have chosen cowardice to preserve her life. In her heart, she roars that dying in an unwinnable battle is better than living as a coward. I never asked you to save my life. Grinding her teeth, she yells. If you intend to turn me into a coward, then get out! In madness, Tio breaks off both of her own horns. Meanwhile, Ayin and her assistants remain safely hidden beneath the rubble's protection. Looking into the dark night covered by bizarre magical power, Ayin worries that teacher Yujin is taking far too long to fully suppress the rampaging demon. A few punches from me would wake her right up. She laughs, admitting she has no martial arts skill. Peering through a narrow opening, Ayin wonders whether the battle is nearly over so they can finally leave. But a catastrophic explosion immediately shakes the entire building, turning Ayin pale. Everything has gone wrong. Outside, Tio panics at the opponent's terrifying speed. He's too fast. She cannot even see his shadow, much less catch him. She believes one clean hit might stop Yujin, but that opportunity feels impossibly distant. Even if her punch lands, his regeneration may render it meaningless. Tio's head feels ready to explode as she forces herself to observe and analyze things she has never considered before. Yet the effort is not wasted. She begins recognizing patterns hidden within Yujin's grotesque movements. Her brain runs at full capacity and finally discovers several important clues. Combat instinct drives her toward Yujin's weakness. Tio concludes that the most dangerous part of Yujin is his hands. More precisely, his palms must never touch her. She changes tactics, crush him without allowing those palms to make contact. A thunderous kick drives Yujin backward. Tio triumphantly realizes his attack is useless if he cannot directly touch her body. She mocks Friedrich for trusting his defenses too much and allowing Yujin close enough to defeat him. Confident in her sharp senses, Tio believes Yujin's slow movements will never reach her. She identifies a second weakness. His medium-range spells are sharp enough to pierce a demon's magic resistance, so she refuses to face them directly again. Her bold plan is to completely crush his head and disrupt the magic he is forcing out. His movements are strange and irritating, but compared with genuine battle mages, they are slow, monotonous, and full of openings. Tio begins suspecting that he does not know how to fight at all. From hiding, Ayin confirms this to her assistants. Teacher Yujin was originally a researcher and never formally studied magical combat tactics. In his fight with Friedrich, he used no truly lethal combat spells, merely swinging his hands to transform surrounding matter. Friedrich lost not because Yujin overwhelmed him in skill, but because he carelessly allowed his arm to be taken and then panicked. Yujin's transformation and regeneration are extraordinary, but they are not everything. When her assistant asks whether immortal recovery will let Yujin find an opening, Ayan says runeless magic has astonishing penetration, and she is searching for a chance for Jelly to help her approach the enemy. She intends to assist when Yujin faces a powerful direct attack. Meanwhile, after 2 days of forcing his brain to operate at full capacity, Yujin is severely overloaded. His opponent is too fast to follow, while his processing speed has fallen to only 12%. His body control system begins failing. Yujin is so sleepy that he considers surrendering and being taken away, hoping the enemy will spare everyone else. But he immediately rejects the idea because if he falls asleep, no one will protect Ayan. Yujin searches desperately for one final method to lock the demon's movements. Tio sees his weakness as his regeneration begins slowing. Realizing Yujin is gradually exhausting himself, she abandons large attacks and commits everything to speed, intending to wear him down to death. Tio attacks madly, exhilarated by the first battle in which she must use observation and thought instead of pure instinct. She regrets making her wager with Friedrich too quickly, now thinking Yujin is not as frightening as the old man described. "This prey will be easy to finish," Tio grins. At that moment Yujin speaks softly. A horrifying killing aura suddenly fills the entire area. Tio trembles as murderous intent seeps through every muscle, nerve, and bone, a disgusting sensation she has never experienced. She realizes in shock that Yujin never considered this a real battle. Humiliation burns within her when she understands that only now has he developed the intention to kill. She charges madly, determined to tear his body apart continuously so he has no time to reform, or even breathe. In the middle of the clash, Ayan suddenly appears and casts a second-tier composite spell, Spatial Cut. She shouts encouragement. "Teacher Yujin, finish her in one strike!" Furious at the interference, Tio calls Ayan a half-trained child daring to meddle in an adult battle. Then Tio is horrified to feel her body pulled toward an inescapable center. It is not wind, spirit, or gravity. The surrounding space itself is collapsing inward. She screams desperately. "Wait! This is cheating. Ending it this way is completely unfair. This isn't a real battle." Yujin appears like a towering ghost and answers coldly. "What battle? I never said I would give you a fair fight." Yujin stands silently among the ruins as everything ends in terrifying stillness. At last, he has captured the female demon. Ayan rushes over excitedly. "Teacher Yujin, you worked hard." She sighs in relief, believing he struggled greatly against the dangerous demon woman. Unlike his delighted student, Yujin mutters that it was such a waste. He almost reached that state, but something interrupted him. He will have to save it for next time. Yujin looks at Ayan with relief. "I'm truly glad you're safe." He anxiously asks whether she is injured, but Ayan quickly reassures him that she is fine. Then she notices something strange and asks what he just said. Before she can finish, Yujin collapses against her from complete exhaustion. Fortunately, he held on until everything was over. Ayan screams in panic as her teacher loses consciousness. After the chaos, every victim is taken to the hospital for physical and psychological treatment. At the police station, the inspector says they all want to thank Ayan personally. He explains that the kidnapping investigation will officially begin tomorrow, while authorities continue searching the ruined scene for clues. One gang member is actively cooperating, and the others will be questioned after Yujin's transformation spell wears off. As for Tio, she is confined in a special glass cage and will be transferred to the Magic Alliance Enforcement Unit tomorrow. The inspector bows and thanks Ayan for bravely entering danger to assist the police, but she modestly says Teacher Yujin and her colleagues deserve most of the credit. Looking at Yujin sleeping deeply on a chair, the inspector asks with concern. Ayan explains that this is the side effect whenever her teacher overuses magic. At that moment, a muscular man suddenly bursts in shouting Park Dong-dae's name. He is Dong-dae's director. He rushes over after hearing that his subordinate was kidnapped. After confirming Dong-dae is safe, he intends to punish the culprit, only to learn that Yujin saved everyone and healed their injuries when Tio suddenly appeared. Recognizing Mage Dong Ayan, the director is shocked that a mystic rank assassin like Tio targeted his people and wonders what the true motive could be. As the scene settles and everyone cleans up, Dongdae stands nearby with his head lowered in guilt. The director promises to apologize personally to Yujin later, then turns awkwardly to Ain. He apologizes that Dongdae's loose mouth caused so much trouble. The boy may look grown, but he is still young and was never properly taught manners. I apologize for his rudeness, and we sincerely thank you for saving my student. Both men bow deeply. Dongdae adds, Me too. Everything happened because of me. I am truly sorry, Mage Dong Ain. Ain smiles and reminds him of their agreement. We made a deal, remember? I said I would forgive you if you helped me. So raise your head, Mr. Park Dongdae. We do not keep striking someone who has already turned back. When things finally calm down, Ain asks Inspector Kim whether they can help with anything else today. He smiles. You can go home now. You've done more than enough. Please send my regards to Teacher Yujin when he wakes. Back at the academy, Wai Myung and his companion struggle to place the sleeping Yujin on a chair. Wai Myung complains. He's so tall that I cannot lay him down properly. He is unbelievably long. Watching, Ain reflects that she has looked up at this uncle since childhood, and it has never been easy. She thanks Wai Myung for carrying Yujin all the way home. He laughs bitterly. I only prayed he would not wake while riding on my back. His companion asks why that would be strange. Wouldn't it be easier if Yujin woke? Wai Myung explains that although Yujin is kind, the pressure from his appearance is extremely difficult to face. Curious, she asks Ain what she thinks of Teacher Yujin's looks. The unexpected question freezes Ain. She silently studies Yujin's sleeping face, the long scar on his neck, sharp features, and enormous height. After thinking, she answers softly. The scar, the severe features, and his excessive height all stand out. But I never truly thought he was ugly. Wai Myung and his companion go silent and sweat, thinking beauty was never the real issue. Ain innocently continues. I mean, he is tall and strong, but with that personality, I doubt he has ever dated anyone. Seeing the two stare, she blushes and hurriedly corrects herself. I only meant he isn't ugly. That's all. Do not misunderstand. He is not my type or anything. She realizes she has spoken too much. She quickly changes the subject and sincerely thanks both friends for rushing to rescue her the moment they heard she was in danger. Ain sadly notes that she is no longer their employer. Technically, they are now strangers. But both insist they could never stand by, especially after receiving such generous severance bonuses. Wai Myung speaks seriously. What worries me is that this will not be the last attempt against you. We still do not know who hired the kidnappers, and rumors that you cannot use magic and are in Korea have already spread everywhere. Ain falls silent, remembering the kidnappers' claim that someone powerful in the alliance wanted to possess her like a display animal or pet. She knew madmen might target Archmage Dong Uk's daughter, but never expected such open action. Looking at the sleeping Yujin, she thinks that although he is brilliant and powerful, he cannot protect her from every threat. Still, she smiles with determination, grateful that this incident helped her discover the true path to growth. She understands that safety requires the ability to defend herself. She cannot depend forever on others. I do not need absolute safety, Ain declares, eyes blazing with resolve. Whatever threat appears will become fuel for her growth under Teacher Yujin's guidance. Meanwhile, in a gloomy forest, a suited man reports by phone that the trafficker has been arrested and the criminal organization completely destroyed. He confirms that Tio was also subdued by Ain's guardian and handed to police. However, he worries that if the captives expose them, the consequences will be troublesome. A cold shadow on the other end orders him to clean the scene thoroughly and leave no trace connecting it to the organization. The gray-haired man silently ends the call with his subordinate and turns to his wife. Sai stands among fell corpses, visibly bored. You should not have told me. Her terrible husband had intended to use Ain as a cruel 30th anniversary gift, even wanting his wife to assume the appearance of Ain's dead mother for the occasion. Disgusted, Sai angrily tears away her false skin, revealing a blue, stitched body like a corpse. She says she is in an extremely bad mood and will spend the entire night relieving stress at the slaughterhouse, leaving her husband alone. Sai believes Ayan is still weak. If they miss the chance for the girl to disappear quietly now, more pests will gather around her later. I will deal with Ayan myself. Stop interfering. Seeing his wife's determination, the husband suggests using Tio's arrest as a reason for Sai's clan to demand custody, since Tio once killed a mystic mage from their people. Sai turns away wearily, mocking her husband's weakness. She suddenly stops, eyes glowing dangerously, and asks the identity of the guardian who defeated Tio alone. Yujin's image appears on the computer with a suspicious caption describing a mutated demon entity. Her attention has shifted to Yujin. Does she intend to confront him personally? At enforcement headquarters, a bearded man explains to the young Everest that Yujin is a notorious mad mage from Korea whose absurd power matches his monstrous appearance. Although senior officials are fighting over custody of Tio, he used his authority to arrange for Everest to personally escort her enemy to prison. Looking at the girl whose parents Tio murdered years ago, he says quietly, "You may not take revenge yourself, but at least put that killer into the deepest prison with your own hands. What do you think?" Everest answers coldly that she will never allow personal emotion to interfere with duty, because she now officially belongs to the Magic Alliance Enforcement Unit.